3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Lumes. I usually say what the person does, but you do a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to introduce you like that, man. Is that okay?
That's all good. That's all good. Thanks for having me.
For sure, man. You've made the hike down here, which is very impressive, and I feel guilty that you've come all the way down here, man.
It's all good, mate. I get around, you know. It's a road trip.
And you killed two birds with one stone because we'll probably talk about it, but I bought the Kingsway book off you.
Yeah.
And the money goes to a good cause.
It does. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. For Deaf Children Australia. So just finished up the auction this week. So yeah, I'm stoked. And I appreciate you getting involved too. So
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking for a book, and it's awesome when you get something that you want, but instead of that money going to something, it's going to a charity, you know? That Deviate thing right there, that was also something he did, and the money was going to help out someone else that needs it, and someone gets a cool piece of art. Everyone wins.
yeah, I know it's a win-win situation. That's what I did with the charity, to be honest. I thought, like, I've done fundraisers before. I ran the City to Surf a couple of years ago when I lived in Sydney. Mm-hmm. And I raised money for, like, suicide awareness, but it was just like a straight fund.
Yep.
And I thought, you know, it'd be nice to do like an initiative like this every couple of years and, you know, do something bigger than the self, you know. So yeah, it was actually good to throw in the auction. I was originally planning to maybe do it in a venue and get everyone there, but it's kind of restricted. Then you're like Melbourne only, whoever can make it on the day. You know, it would have been cool to do a Christie's style auction, but went the digi route and it worked out. So
Well, you can always do that in the future.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah.
And where did is it from your personal collection, or people donated stuff?
Yeah, bro, 90% of that's from my collection, bits and pieces. Then, like, I had that AKA 12 sitting there for a while, and then I hit up Ransom. I got him to sign it.
Wow. Did he do the dollar sign?
Yeah, he did everything on it, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Then the Tame canvas is actually I hit Tame up. I've known him for a long time on the Belgrave line. I hit Tame up. He happily donated that canvas, which is really cool.
Do you think he'd ever do an episode?
Huh?
Would you reckon he'll ever do an episode of this?
Tame?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I reckon.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I was just like, I haven't had him on. Yeah.
You haven't had Tame on? Yeah.
No.
Wait, he did Biz Beats and the Biz. I'm tripping. I was going to say he has done an episode.
Nah,
so.
people do that all the
Yeah.
time. They're like, I saw that, and I'm like, no, they haven't been on yet.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other one.
Yeah, because you know what? He's one of those mysterious figures. I know what you mean. He's a bit of a curveball as to whether you get him on, but
Yeah.
I reckon he'd do it for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
He's pretty out of touch with the social media kind of thing.
That's what, we're also invested in social media now that you kind of, like, when you don't see people pop up all the time, you can fucking easily just overlook them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And then I'm trying to think what else. There was a lot of stuff donated there by Len One and Chubbs at Miles Ago.
Awesome.
Word up. They sent a lot of records. And Craven Pedals at Harry's Hip Hop Shop. A few books. The Trem, the Sheer Talent 12, that was from Crave. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have gone for a bit, man.
yeah, bro, went for $850 in the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super nice of them to fucking...
And two blokes were bidding in the DM. Same with the Posse Shop pack, like right till the very finish. You know what I mean? I was like switching between windows, text message, Instagram, like switching right up until the 6 p.m. So yeah, hot competition.
For sure. So how much money did you end up raising altogether?
$6,500, I think. Yeah,
That's
6
good,
lacquer
man.
and a monkey. We got
Yeah.
it done. So yeah, I think I'm really happy with it, man. Like it's a pretty niche cause, and I'm a pretty like niche person with a niche internet following. So I'm really happy. You know what I mean? Like $6,500. I'm stoked, and I spoke to the charity even again this morning. I'm going to go see them on Saturday. They're really stoked too. You know what I mean? I think they were happy that someone thought of them out of the blue. Like I kind of said in the reels that I was saying, it's not really like the cause du jour or the cause of the day. You know, there's always like certain causes that
So
people.
why'd you pick that cause then?
Me, actually, I had a lot of hearing problems over the course of my life, particularly the last 10 years and the last couple of years. So, I had like a tumor in my ear many years ago, and I had some hearing bone removed. And from there, I've had like on and off problems. I've had 3 surgeries. I lost most of my hearing at one stage, under 30%. I found out in the last couple of months, pretty much it's kind of all failed. It's looking like I have to have surgery on both ears again next year. Got a bit of nerve damage and some like kind of complex issues, but just kind of is what it is. You roll with the punches. And then in that kind of same week, I met these two deaf women in Lumes actually, and had this really amazing interaction with them. And I started thinking, you know what, like it's an old cliche, but you can't lapse into victimhood. Like there's always someone that's got it worse than you, and it's a real eye opener. And you think about like children, the school, the deaf children's school. There's people out there like in this. I just can't imagine, you know, because it's scary when you confront like losing your hearing. When I got right down to below 30%, like it's pretty confronting. You know, your brain adapts to start lip reading. You become worse off in social situations. Making music, all that kind of stuff becomes like super difficult.
Does it heighten your other senses though?
Yeah, I think it definitely heightened my taste. Maybe that's why I'm more on the food tip these days. It's like, yeah, your brain does readjust. It's crazy how the brain adjusts to like lip reading and stuff like that. But there was certainly some moments. Like I did this album in 2022 called Like Tears in the Rain. There's a song on there called 3 a.m. And I remember when I sent the stems to Phil Gector to master the record, he kind of hit me up and he was like, "Oh, are you sure the bass is meant to be this way?" And I thought, "Oh, like, mate, it's fucking bags of wheat. It's sweet. The bass, I'm ready to go. I want the album mix." And it was actually out of tune. He ended up playing the bass for me on that song because it's to the point where like I was finishing that album and I was sitting there like pushing headphones right against my ear to hear bass tones and stuff like that, and just little 1%ers that they kind of dampen your experience of.
And you trust his ear though.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and he killed the bass line. Probably one of the best songs I've ever done. Like, so, yeah, certain things like that, that it's quite confronting. So then when you see people that are like, born deaf or, they've gone deaf along the way and that kind of thing, and you look at like, I guess, yeah, it just takes you outside of yourself. I'm like most people who spend a lot of time thinking about myself, right? Particularly I'm 34 years old as a single, so I spent a lot of time thinking about myself, right? But I think it was just one of those things where it's like if you step outside yourself and you look at other people and think, I don't know, just an overwhelming urge to help, I guess, right, in the end. So,
yeah, man.
I just thought I'll do something, and I feel like it's one of those causes too that maybe people take for granted, but just the cause itself is one of those things that people don't think out of the blue to raise money for. There's always like some global tragedy going on at some time, which I also care about as well, right? But it's like there's always a carousel of tragedy going on in the world, and you forget that there's all these other outlying causes and substratas of society and demographics, I guess, that
for sure
people don't sort of think of. Sometimes I just feel like I want to do something for the underdog,
Yeah, man. And I'm guessing most people that would be involved with those charities would be people that would have, issues with their own hearing or people that they know or their family or whatever. So for you just to do it without any of those connections except for just your own sort of personal, hearing is pretty impressive. I bet you they would have been like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they spun the fuck out, particularly like, like some hip-hop hooligan on Instagram that just, says, I'm going to run this auction. I'm not sure how much, I'm not sure how much they really understood it, but at the same time, the people that I spoke to at the charity were just like so gracious about the whole thing and really supportive. And then actually this Saturday they're having a fate kind of festival thing. So I'm actually going to go and meet the people in person because pretty much all the charity, the fund, everything will be squared off by then and paid out, and I will have delivered everyone all the items and everything. So
amazing.
Yeah,
they would have been spun out because they would have been like, man, he's doing some books and records, and how much money is he going to get? They're like, $8,500. What?
yeah. What is this trem? This,
Well, because people that are in the scene wouldn't understand how much value or how important these items are to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I was talking to people. There's people that donated to the fund too that are just like friends of mine from outside the hip hop scene. That was really cool. That they don't really get it either. Or probably don't want to get, you know what I mean? It's just whatever. But then they're looking at it like, what a spin out, you know what I mean? And then, like, even the tame canvas ended up going for $1,500 and stuff like that. So people were kind of like, oh, what the fuck? Like, yeah, really interested in, I guess, what this means to this like kind of subculture of people, especially like friends of mine that know me from outside the hip hop scene. People inside the hip hop scene get it, all my long term friends, of course. But yeah.
And so the question is, are you going to do it again?
Am I going to do it again? Man, I want to try and do something like this at least every couple of years, like something, try and get bigger in scale every time. I mean, when I ran the City to Surf and I raised money, it was for Black Dog Institute for like suicide prevention. I think I got like $1,500 or $2,000, but man, it turns out even just that, I was in the top 10% of fundraisers or whatever.
It's all about your network.
Yeah, and so then this time it came out, we did 6.5. So hopefully in a couple of years' time, like just let it happen organically. But yeah, I'd love to just try and keep doing something bigger and better.
Well, I think now after you've done that one with the auction, if you said to people, have you got something that means something to someone else that's just sitting there collecting dust, we could turn that into money for a charity. People might donate some more stuff to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, and then most of that stuff was just my personal collection, and I've always been a huge collector, but I'm probably less emotionally attached to things nowadays. And I thought, you know what, like, even from a letting go perspective, like, it's better off in their pocket than it is in mine,
For sure.
So
no, noble of you, man. All right, well, let's talk about your story. Let's talk about you in hip hop,
Yeah.
and you've come a long way. You've done a lot of different stuff, man. So tell us how you got introduced to hip hop in the early days.
Fuck. So, I mean, probably similar to a lot of like Genesis stories, I guess. Like for me, like to probably take it right back would have been primary school for sure.
Yep.
Some of the older kids listen to hip hop. I'm talking like back then. I had this mate of mine's brother who like used to burn CDs and sell them for like $5. With
You're
that kind of,
born in 90.
born in 1990. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah. So by the time I got it earlier, I'm talking like 7 or 8 years old. The late 90s for sure. Like at primary school, just like man, all the early Eminem albums, Chronic 2001, going to kids' houses and watching the Up in Smoke tour, all that kind of stuff just blew my mind. But
It was
around
a good time for hip hop then as well.
yeah, it was amazing. It was just like really, yeah. And then I guess like what I found as well was then all of a sudden, very quickly, started to see like graffiti through my older brother, and so then following on from that, I think the first ever Australian rapper I ever heard was like Bias B.
Yep.
I would hear people like maybe rap at school, but it was more graffiti that people were into. And then all of a sudden I found out about this Bias B guy. People telling me like he's from Eltham, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? Like I've chilled in Eltham and used to go to house parties there and stuff. But I was pretty young. I was like 11 or 12 years old, I think, when I first heard Bias, like Beeswax, I forget exactly which format I kind of heard it on. I ended up getting the album off him at Obese. Then, yeah, it was like, I just became really intrigued with it because, yeah, it was this whole fascination with like what the cool older kids were doing. It was tied into like skating, like guys back then used to mission into the sale yards in the city. You had all the different skate parks and like graffiti riders on the train, local shops. I grew up in Ringwood, like right near Eastland Shopping Centre. So that was like pretty bustling place back then. Dodgy as fuck too. So it's just like, all the different ins and outs of that kind of culture. It was all like kind of mixed back then. It was more of a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
Then,
it was counterculture, sort of. It was just...
Yeah. Then everyone just seemed to listen to hip-hop. And I'd already been, as a really, really young kid, my parents used to listen to Triple J and stuff. So I was really into, alternate music, I guess, pretty early. You know what I mean?
That's cool,
Aussie rock and stuff like that. And once I heard hip-hop, though, I was just, captivated. And then it was every single element of it that I really wanted to, be a part of. I just felt like it was this world within a world that people were, people were expressing themselves, and not just the rapping, but the rapping, the sound, the beats, the way people dressed, it was all just huge. And then I just really quickly just kind of went into the whole kind of rabbit hole of hip hop. And then obviously you start with the shops. For me, and from a lot of people from my area, you started with the shops was kind of a wider exposure. So it hadn't opened yet, but Obese Records was open. So I used to mission to Obese Records by myself, 11 or 12 years old, go in there and just talk to buyers or whatever. And it was funny because I'd heard of this guy, and he's apparently from Eltham, and the next minute you're standing in front of him in a store, or Pegs, or probably Strat, whoever was working there back then, Solomon. Then it was just then you're meeting other kids in the store, kids coming in to buy paint, buy markers, and it was just what area you're
It was
from.
like a magical place in high school, wasn't it? You go in there,
Yeah.
how cool is all this?
Oh, yeah, man. It was this is wild. And then, there used to be this place in Warrandyte that sold blank hoodies and stuff like that, a little skate shop, and they had some sort of license to sell blank hoodies and stuff. So it was I remember going to buy one of the early Dorps blank hoodies from there, and it's wow, and then people said to me, you got to go to the battles. If you really like rapping, you got to go to the battles at the time. Because I was only probably 12 when people were telling me this. It was the battle scene was kind of taking off with these underage battles. On the tail end of that Run Amok era, then you had all these events like Time to Rhyme, Tongue Tied, and then the guys in the shop at Obese were telling me got to go to these battles. And then it went from there.
Are they held at actual venues? Are they held outside or at youth centres? Or where are they held at?
Fucking Tongue Tied was the battles in the park. I don't know if people remember that. It switched locations a few times, but mainly in Alexandra Gardens, near where they built the skate park.
Yep.
Time to Rhyme, I think that was on Flinders Lane somewhere, near where Wax Lounge is, roughly around there. I can't exactly remember. And then there used to be this bar on Burke Street called Kavodos Bar. And that was the first ever battle I went to. It was on Burke Street, Kavodos Bar. And I fucking forget the name of the event.
Was it up the top near sort of
Yeah.
Metro?
Yeah, up the hill.
Yeah.
And I think I probably told the yarn before, but I went in and I battled a guy called Nicotine, who's I think he's still around. I think he's living up north, but he was a pretty sick battle rapper at the time, from the western suburbs, from Taylor's Lakes. I didn't know any of these people at the time. I just walked in cold. I think I probably only knew Solomon in the crowd. because I'd seen him before, and there was a couple heads from the east there that I knew, like Graph Riders and stuff like that. But again, that just kind of strengthened my relationship with the culture, because I walked in and I went on stage like by myself, and I had some lines or whatever, but I got like absolutely roasted, and it was just this thing. I was only 13, right? I was in year 7, and I just like went on the stage.
Did you look older, or did you look like you were 13?
I looked a bit older because I was really overweight, but like I was noticeably young. My voice hadn't really broke yet, which kind of worked against me in the battle. And then like, I'll never forget. Like I had a fucking Kangol on, and I was just like, I'm talking like I was totally entranced by the whole hip hop thing, right? I walked in there in like Air Max 90s and like a Kangol, but I had like a white shirt. And the first battle, I battled that nicotine guy, and he goes, "This guy's just a dead shit. He looks like a Frenchman. All he's missing is the breadstick." And it's just like, you know what I mean? And that feeling of just like, it takes a bit of dash as a young kid. Like I was a bit nervous to go in there, right? And then you get inside, there's all these older kids there. Then you finally get on the stage, and fucking from the first line, it's just like bang, like you're getting served, and it's like it's a bit of a make or break moment. Either you like cower in the corner, or you come back, you retaliate. You bridge up, and so I just like had a few lines in the end, and then like I got off stage, and I just remember getting like heaps of props from people in the crowd.
Did you retort to the French line?
Nah, I think I had nothing for it. I was
something
like,
about eating frog's legs. I'll turn you into fucking
escargot.
I don't know.
Yeah, I should have gone there. Yeah. Maybe I just shouldn't have worn the Kangol. Fucking. But yeah, I remember getting off the stage. Like I met heaps. I remember seeing Solomon. Like man, I just met so many heads. Like some of them still around too. And then I remember meeting like Methods was a really good mate of mine, like rest in peace. He passed away like sort of around 10 years ago. But I remember he came up to me with, do you remember TPS from the West Side, all the Graph Riders? They were pretty active, and they were pretty like badass motherfuckers back then, even as teens, So that whole kind of TPS, TWK from the West Side. And then, man, I was just like meeting so many people, and everyone had aliases, and everyone had fucking tags and smashing the toilets. And I was just like, I was like, it just hooked me in. I felt right at home. It kind of felt like this is like, this is this fringe network of society of just like hip hop youth. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So.
And so then you lose the first battle, but you got props.
Yeah.
So that puts a fire under you to write and sort of and to go harder, to do more homework.
Oh yeah, bro, 100%. Like I was practicing freestyling every day, like writing raps, like walking around with a Discman. Like people who went to high school with me would have known I was right into it, you know what I mean? Like, and then I just every single battle, and then like back then I didn't really even have a mobile phone, but we had like MSN back then, the chat messenger, and it's like, put the old 56k dial-up internet, and you talk to the other kids that were on MSN, or you just bump into the other kids, particularly like, mate, there was kids there like, they were homeless, they were living in the streets and stuff, so you'd see them around, and then there'd always be like a reference to coming to these different battles, Someone would always tell you, you've got to go to this battle, you've got to go to Tongue Tied, it's in the park, it's this Saturday, and before you know it, like you're in the mix with people and you're hanging out and going to each other's houses in different areas and different train lines and going to all these battles. And I got right into the battle scene then. I was definitely writing raps and wanted to be like a studio kind of rapper, but it was the battle scene that was most captivating at the start. So I started going to every possible thing between sort of like, 13 and 15. Yeah.
And so that's post 8 Mile as well, so people know what battle rap is.
Yeah.
It went from something that people had that weren't really into it, didn't really know much about, and then everyone's like, "Oh, it's this thing." That would have brought a lot of kids into it.
Yeah, man, and it brought a lot of curveballs too. Like there was, there was so many like just kids that got into it, and then there was like, I remember the first few times I snuck into like Revolver MC battle, you would see guys with like, you know what I mean, like backwards caps, and you could tell they weren't really a part of like the core Australian hip hop scene, but they'd seen 8 Mile and they were coming there, and it was like the early 2000s had that whole like, Americana influence as well, and the R&B clubs were massive, and guys were coming in like backwards flat brims and big jackets and that kind of stuff. And then you had
wearing Echo and shit.
Yeah, man, yeah. And then you had like all the Graph Rider kids, all the hip hop kids from the outer suburbs. But man, it was just such an amazing like social experience too, and like just like a learning curve too, like just at that young age, just getting on stage and like, fair enough, you get served a few times, but then you win a battle. And then just like the rush you get from that, or the rush you get from dropping lines and the whole crowd goes nuts, and just that really kind of innocent thing, jump off the stage and getting props from like cool older kids. And that was my first few years was just like hardcore into the battle scene.
When you go from the under 18s battles, the young stuff, to then sneaking into Revolver and seeing the big boys do it.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this is really it. Like, this is where I want to be at.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because then at the same time, back then, the scene was so social. Everyone was outdoors. Everyone was outside. So I was meeting older rappers, like, at a rapid rate, older heads, music producers, like, people that I'd looked up to and listened to their records, like, every week, you bump into, like Trem or Strad, or I remember meeting, like, Prowler, Delta, guys like that really early on. Solomon, I was really close with Solomon when I was young and hanging out with him, and I was everywhere, man. It was a 360-degree lifestyle for me, and I think it still is. I don't know if that's kind of been lost over the years, but the way I kind of live, it was like, mate, like, non-stop 24/7 hip-hop. And so I started going to every, like, midweek show too. I'm talking, like, Barcode on King Street, Blue Tile Lounge, like, anything that was there. The Spot, Sydney Road, Brunswick, all the midweek shows, all the battles, underage battles, sneaking into anything I could, overage, going to kids' houses, studios. By the time I was 15, I'd started recording with Joel's. He used to have a label called Down Pressure, and he was, like, in
St Kilda?
St Kilda. Yeah. So I was going around here. He was the first person to actually record me. DJ Excel had Rebel Bass in the 90s. Like, at the time, Zulu Nation and stuff, I started going to those kind of meetings and networking with those people. And then the other huge thing that I think had a massive impact was our Street Science in Noble Park. So that was another midweek event. I'm not sure if you know Street Science workshops.
I'm not from that sort of...
Yeah, so Street Science, it used to be run by Solomon and Jay Red, and it was in Noble Park next to Noble Pools. I think it's a gym now.
I remember the pool there, though. I
Yeah.
remember going to that pool when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was nuts, man. It had all sorts of stuff. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, like Memorial Drive, in Noble. And then I remember going there, like, on the recommendation of Solomon to come out there. And because I'm from Ringwood and Dandy have always kind of had this, like, kinship, And then we'll go across there, and it was just, like, met all these other young heads from Dandy. And it's like, it was kind of this workshop where you'd walk in, J-Red would be on the decks, you could take a turn scratching. At one stage of the night, they would have everyone getting on the mic and going back to back, or freestyling, or just dropping a new written or whatever it was. Cyphers out the back. Then out the back, you had, like, this cyclone fence with boards all along it, so you had people, like, painting, doing graph, and then, like, the council used to supply all the paint and everything. So that was run by Solomon and Jay Red, but there was heaps of heads there, like, good friends of mine still to this day, like Ante and Beards, and my mate Craig used to come out with me from Basie. Then, you had, like, all the Dandy guys, like all the MR boys, KSA boys, all that kind of wave at the time, everyone just out there, and it was kind of more intimate. It was only, like, a lot of heads back then, they were a bit too shook to go there too. Like, some people from across the city were like, oh, like, Noble at the time was pretty red hot, so a lot of people didn't want to trek all the way out on a Wednesday night for it, but it would be in there, like, just maybe 20 or 30 guys on a Wednesday night, and yeah, just like that was really inspiring.
And that's all underage kids, or that's everybody?
There was just everybody, like, doors just open, you know what I mean? There's a lot of curveballs in there from time to time, but it was mainly always the same heads, like, every week. So that was just, like, really good at kind of having this intermission on a Wednesday night where you could get on stage and rap, but it wasn't as serious as the shows I was starting to play or the battles or anything like that. It was just more
try out some material, cut your teeth, kind of get your...
Yeah, and it was the same for, like, guys doing pieces, it's like, it's not under pressure like you're on the line or you're in a train yard or whatever. You can just have a go on the boards out the back. And yeah, that was huge. So, and then by this stage, like, I'd sort of linked up with a lot of heads from all over the city, like guys like Discourse and stuff. He showed me how to make beats. I was starting to get into making beats, like starting to play a few shows.
What was your first, what like, production equipment are you using when you first start to make beats?
Bro, people are going to laugh, producers out there. I started making beats on Acid Pro 3. So it's like a Fruity Loops adjacent, like, software.
I remember Acid Pro.
Like,
Sony Acid Pro was the first one that I had.
And you know what the funniest thing is? I graduated to Acid Pro 6, and in 2025, if I still make a beat, it's on Acid Pro 6.
Really?
Yeah, bro, I hate...
Didn't they discontinue it?
I think so, but I've just still got it on, like, an old computer that doesn't have the internet, so I just keep that purely for making beats.
Amazing.
Yeah, man, like, I'll sample into, like, SoundForge, which is also, like, the adjacent program, and then make beats. And people probably laugh, right? Because, like,
if it works for you, it works. Man.
Yeah, I'm all about workflow with things. I like to do things quickly. The biggest rush of making music for me is the actual spark, the idea. Oh, flip that sample, or I've got this bar, and I want it to just come together. I'm not really one, like, I've got friends of mine with, like, crazy studios that do amazing stuff with tech. They're, like, gearheads, you know what I mean? But I'm really not into it. I don't have the patience for it. I borrowed drum machines off friends over the years and tried to have a go at 2000 XLs back in the day or whatever it is, but you know, and I know it's got a physical element to it that was kind of cool. You can tap out the drums, but man, I just got so quick at the software, and I was like, fuck it, I don't really need anything else, you know what I mean? And then I don't make as many beats as I used to, but all the beats I've done for people over the years, the beats I've done on my album, I produced my whole first album, all that kind of stuff.
With no hardware, all digital, basically.
All just digital and sampling records. I play a little bit of synth or
Analog
whatever.
into digital, but no tapping pads, no keys, any of
Nah, I did have keys, play synths every now and then, but man, pretty much just smashing it out on software, you know? And like a lot of other producer heads always laugh when I tell them this because it's like, but I don't know, I found out back then a lot of the big producers that at the time, I'm not sure if they still were now, but I know like even Trem, Platonic Lab, guys like that I really looked up to at the time. They were making beats on Fruity Loops and stuff as well. Maybe they were sampling into hardware to get the sound and then bridging it across to track it out in like Fruity or something. But I don't know. I never looked at it like I had to, you know, we used to buy Scratch magazine back in the day and see all the producers in the crazy studios, and I always kind of liked the imagery of it all, but when it came to the practicality of it, man, I was like, I just want to crank out the beats, man. I'm not...
Yeah, it's what works for you.
Yeah, I'm not a tech head at all. Like,
No, but when you look back at some of the early beats that people were making, they had very, very minimal sample time. They were using the technology they had at the time.
Yeah.
You were using the technology you have at the time. You choose not to use the newer technology. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. I think if I ever get back into making beats in a hardcore fashion, then maybe I'll upgrade, you know. Like, I really kind of like the Native Instruments machine when it came out, because it kind of was the first thing to really nut out that relationship between hardware and software. That looked really cool, and I've had to go at that at people's houses or whatever, but... Man, I love sampling more than I love making the beats. Yeah. So, yeah, I've always been big on digging records, and I think probably my strength as a producer is just the ear for samples, right? Like, I'm not a very technical producer, but I feel like I've always had a pretty good ear for samples. So.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting thing about, like, now in this date, we're at 2025, people have been sampling records for 50 years, since records have been around, basically. Yeah. So it's hard to find that thing that no one else has rinsed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, now we've got the technology like Who Sampled, where you can look and you can see some things have been sampled by, and obviously everyone samples differently, but it must be that challenge to like, let's find something and use it in a way that someone else hasn't done yet.
Yeah. Well, I like that. You know, early on, I remember the whole kind of thing was like, I would find a sample, make a beat, show it to a friend. They go, oh, you can't use that sample. Like, Lord Finesse has used that, or, you know, Souls of Mischief has used that, or whatever. And it was like, I think people did away with that mentality after a while. It's like, fuck it, just flip it, you know what I mean? How many people used Impeach the President and flipped it in different ways, you know, like...
Or layering different on top of each other, it's going to be different, you know?
Yeah, I think it's all about putting your, like, personal spin on it, you know? So, yeah, I think that's cool. It's like, I actually like hearing beats where I'm like, oh, yeah, I know this sample, such and such has flipped it, but oh, they came at it totally different. I think it's like interesting, fun to hear. So
when Discourse introduces you, or you said he sort of got you on that sampling kind of production thing, or that's where you met him, are you still focusing on rap, or you think, oh, production is more interesting, or are you just trying to do everything?
Bro, I was trying to do everything. Like, I was 120 kilos when I was 12, right? I was pretty overweight. If I could breakdance back then, I would have fucking been a b-boy as well. You know, like, I was doing everything possible. Like, hip-hop to me was just like 360-degree lifestyle. Like, I wanted to do it all. Obviously, I was a little bit more into like rapping and making beats, and I kind of wanted to be like that MC producer type.
Yep.
That kind of typical archetype that was there. I was definitely more into like rapping. I think that was like my primary thing. Over the years, it drifted more into beat making and then probably more back into rapping now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was like, man, I could have done it all. But yeah, when I met Discourse, I met him at the battles, and then I ended up going around to his like mum's house back in the day. Keep in mind, I'm 14, 15.
He would have been a bit older.
He was a few years older, 16 or 17. But you know what it's like at that age? Someone's 3 years older, they may as well be 20 years older. Like the scope is different when you're that age. And he was pretty advanced compared to the other kids. Like, he was already making beats. He knew the software in and out. He is a bit of a tech head, unlike me. He was also making a lot of really cool art. He was doing like graphic design, and then he went into the videos and stuff later. Yeah, like, he was just kind of doing all these other bits and pieces that were kind of foreign to me, because I guess everyone else that I grew up with was more just on the like rapping side, or they were like graph writers or just scallywags, you know? So then it was like really interesting to meet someone that was like,
he was more behind the scenes sort of thing, but still there, you know?
Yeah, he did rap once upon a time.
I know.
Yeah. So, but like, yeah, he just knew what he was doing and just showed me how to make beats. And then I kind of just got hooked on the sampling thing. And digging records used to be like a pastime. Like, that was part of the 360-degree lifestyle cycle. It's like you go out for the day, dig records, go to the hip-hop shops, bump into these guys down Chapel, you know, whatever, bump into these guys in the city, wax with them for a few hours, go back to the suburbs. Like, it was just all one.
Is there any going to school?
Yeah. I was going to school. You know, I actually finished year 12. I was out a lot, like, for sure, like, in and amongst school. But I don't know. I think school was, like, the only constant. I was still going to school.
Even going to gigs on a Wednesday or going to gigs on a Thursday, you're still going to school?
Yeah, 100%.
Fuck, man.
100%. Yeah. Well, I think school, like, it's like, I don't know. I've always found in life you need to have some sort of routine, right? Like, and, like, school for me then, I definitely lost interest in school. I found school, like, it's going to sound like a humble brag or something, but I found school quite easy. So it was just like, I'll just check in, do my thing, leave. I never did any homework and everything, but I still passed all the classes, whatever. But it was always like hip hop. I'd be in class, like in English class. We didn't have laptops at school, so I'd just be like pen and paper, like writing a bit of a rap or like try to do a sketch or something like that. Uh-huh. My brother was real fresh, real early with graffiti too, so I kind of felt like I gravitated towards like, right, I'm going to do the rapping thing. Like he does the graph thing. And
I can't catch him, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And it was like, I hung around a lot of graph writers always from the start. And then like always did tags and bits and pieces over the years. It was just basically like a fucking toilet tagger, you know? But it's like, yeah, I was like always just trying to be a part of like everything. And then I had my own thing, which was the rapping. That's what most captivated me, was the rapping.
Uh-huh. And were people at school like down with it, or were they like, oh man, rapping, you know what I mean? Like, were you popular for it?
Yeah, sort of. I can remember like freestyling in the locker bay with like 100 kids like there, and I battled like a mate of mine who like wasn't a rapper. He was just like a mad gun footballer and a pretty boy, you know what I mean? A good mate of mine at high school. Yeah, and like people thought it was cool. You were definitely a curveball. Like, definitely back then, like people would put you on the wigger. I haven't even heard the word wigger in like 20 years, you know. But back then it was like, it was relevant. People would say, oh, it's that Yank stuff. You know, they just didn't really understand there was a local thing. But there was a few graph writers at our school. Like, there's a couple of older kids. This kid that wrote Coins. This guys wrote like Boost. You know what I mean? They got out of it by the time they were 17 or 18. But there was graph writers at the school, so they kind of understood it just by proxy of doing graph, you know. Like,
yeah, it's all intertwined. So then when you finish school, you finish year 12, where do you go from there, man?
Mate, by the time I got to 18, like the thing is with my youth, like it was 24/7 hip hop from the age of 13 to like 18. So the first 5 years just solid. Like by the time I actually got to 18, you know, adult life kicks in and things like that change. You start going through a lot of stuff, and I guess in a sense I had like some kind of like pent up issues and like a pent up darkness within me. And I think those first 5 years within the hip hop scene, I was kind of just held together by the social side of the hip hop scene and just the excitement and everything. And then by the time I got out of school, the hip hop game was slowly changing. It was becoming a little bit more online. There was people that I used to see every week at the hip hop shows that were starting to like drift away and just get jobs. And then there was people that moved overseas and all that kind of stuff. And it starts molding and shifting, and there's some of the new characters that come into it and some of the old characters bow out. And I started hanging out more, I guess, with different types of heads, like getting my kicks in different ways, you know, like, you know, it's like, I was big into racking back then, doctor shopping. I started getting into like drugs and all that kind of stuff, and smoking heaps of chorf, and naturally start gravitating towards that kind of thing. So then I was just as entranced by that lifestyle as hip hop. It was like it gave me the same rush that when I first got into hip hop, that rush, you know? Yeah,
it is. If people are racking through the hip hop stuff, they start to soon realize racking in general, you can make more money to racking other stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it was also one of those things that I was like, back then, man, my mentality was like, fuck society, fuck ever having a job. I'm not going to have a wife and kids and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's fucking hip hop to the death, you know, like this kind of like, this attitude. It's just like, I was just so like, I was like, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to live and breathe every single part of it, you know? And it's like, and it was that same thing as like being inside the hip hop scene and hanging out with these guys. It felt like we're all like misfits and outcasts that are on the fringe of society. And we found like this brotherhood within this fraternity of hip hop. And then that kind of same thing happens with the drug scene and the criminal
lost
scene.
souls finding each other sort of a bit, isn't it?
That's right. And then you're sort of like just trauma bonding with other kids. And, you know, I wasn't like the green 13-year-old that I once was. You know, I turned 18 and I been around for like a fair while, but like 5 years was a long time back then, and yeah, I guess like by the time I was 18, I was still definitely making music and making beats and everything, but yeah, if you look at my 20s, there's like huge gaps where I didn't really do anything. Probably slid more into making beats and...
It's a shame though, man, because like, well, obviously you've pulled yourself right out of it, but you see it with a lot of people that show promise and they just go down the wrong way. And I think people get themselves so deep in that lifestyle, they just don't even know how to get out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, I still got mates today that are still really active in that world. And, there was guys, mate, back then there was guys 17, 18, 19 years old getting like 10 plus years in jail, and it's like at the time it was just like whatever, everyone was sort of in and out of prison. I already knew guys in my teenage years in and out of prison. Even myself at one stage, I just expected like sooner or later you're going to get half inch, you're going to get locked up. It's just what's it going to be like? You start anticipating it and, it's almost like a rite of passage.
Like a badge of honor.
Yeah, in a way, like I was kind of always trying to stay away from that, but it was normal mentality, you know what I mean? So, and there's guys that never really came back from that, like even still now, you know what I mean?
Talented people, man.
Yeah, 100%, man. So many guys, like names after names after names, you're still hearing the names and guys coming home, bumping into this guy and they all know each other. And some guys, they just never really escaped that lifestyle and, yeah, it just is what it is, I guess. So.
For sure. And it's a shame because it's a shame for anyone to get really caught up in that whole thing. But some people are born into it and they kind of never go out. But there's some people that I know even, man, that have had every opportunity but end up just going down the wrong way and they could never know how to pull themselves out of it.
Yeah, that's what's a crazy thing. You look at a couple of guys too and you think, I wonder how... this is probably more so with drugs. I think like it's... The prison culture thing and that kind of criminal element is a different thing. I often wonder more. I see some guys that are really talented hip hop heads and they're so far gone on the Persian rugs that it's like a lot of guys that I knew back then didn't really have much going for them. And so you can almost understand in a way that
they're
it's
not
like
throwing it away.
Yeah, they just went into this free fall avalanche into like drug addiction stuff where there was other guys that had like major opportunities, a lot of talent, a lot of friends, girlfriends, more infrastructure than I had at their age, and they still went so far downhill. So it makes you wonder what's really going on inside some of these people. Maybe we don't know. Maybe it's,
Yeah, and that's the thing. You never know what's going on in someone else's head and they're all in their own mental space. But yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame.
Yeah.
But let's get back to your journey. So you're doing that. You're still actively rapping and stuff, but just sporadically here and there, making beats here and there. You're focused on other things.
Yeah, man. I was still like doing bits and pieces. I'd been going interstate a couple of times to play shows. Like I remember, like we went to Adelaide and played with. I went to Adelaide a couple of times. Went to Adelaide, played with Mortar. Me and my mate Craig stayed with Mandel. Rest in peace. He's a good guy. Hosted us over there. Mandel and Plans. Yeah, played interstate shows, doing bits and pieces, making beats, and then I linked up with guys like Selzy, Gargs, Tawns, produced some songs for Tawns. This is kind of in those next few years, like out of high school.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I was definitely more onto the like beat making side of things. We're still playing shows though. It was kind of, I guess I just wasn't taking it so seriously. Like when I was a teenager, I was like a lot of heads back then. Might sound funny now in this day and age, but back then it was like you wanted to be signed to like Nuff Said. You wanted Prowls to give you a record deal. You wanted to be signed to Uncut. You wanted Trem to take you on. Like young heads were like gunning for that, like it was Olympic glory. You know what I mean? It was like that's what it was like, and you did have dreams of like playing. You see, these other rappers playing festivals or opportunities started coming. Now these kind of things are a little bit more common. It's more dime a dozen. People are making actual money out of rap music. It's a huge online thing,
You can blow up on TikTok now and make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Time.
Yeah. So back then it was kind of like as a teenager, I had that mentality. I was like, I want to take this thing all the way. You know what I mean? I treated it like, I love the fun lifestyle of it, but in the back of my mind, I was like, mate, I'm taking this all the way. There's no way I'm ever going to get a job or whatever. And then
so this is mid 2000s now, like 2006, 2007.
Yeah, 06, 05, 06, 07, 08, all those years there.
And then social media pops off, and that changes it a bit.
Yeah, like MySpace came out. It was like a bit of a novelty when it came out. It was just like it was pretty fun. You could put tracks on there and all that kind of stuff.
It was good for musicians, I think, man. I reckon it was better for musicians. Like, that platform was better for musicians than, like, any other fucking platform we've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe SoundCloud,
Yeah, it was actually cool, but it was kind of like a novelty, like... Man, I can remember being out. This is what the whole thing. Like, I can remember being out and about, digging records, or getting up to no good, or hanging out with people, and then like in between popping into like the internet cafe in Swan Street, Richmond, on the way around the corner from This Is It, and checking my MySpace in the cubicles. And looking back, like, mate, these were dark places. There was like middle-aged blokes in there watching porn and shit in the next cubicle, and there was like, you know, I guess like tourists and stuff checking in on their emails, and it was like. It's a different world, and we'd be popping in and checking like your MySpace, see if someone sent you a message, or you know, no one had smartphones or all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah,
But it was like social media is now. It's a great way to link up with other people because, you know, you're not meeting people interstate until really the internet pops off. Like, it's hard to connect with someone who's the same state of mind as you know?
yeah, 100%. Like I definitely met people when you go interstate, or they came here, all that kind of stuff was really organic, but. Yeah, when social media came out, it was like all of a sudden you were discovering more about, I guess, the rap scene outside of Melbourne. Besides what you used to just go by the CDs that you saw on the shelves, you know, Beast and This Is It, and you'd be like, okay, these heads are from Sydney. I used to really like, you know, Eastern Bloc, and of course Lazy, 750, Brisbane. You know, you'd sort of dig and realize, okay, they're from this state, that state, and maybe you would meet them if they came down for a show or bits and pieces. But once you had social media, all of a sudden, yeah, you did have that kind of reach to go beyond, and then. Now, like, mate, that is like kind of the landscape.
Yeah.
You know, more so than the physical hip hop landscape. I think people connect much more on social media now.
Man, well, you look at even people like Flu and stuff. He's producing tracks for dudes that he's never met in the US, and they're putting out albums, and a lot of that stuff's happening, which is sick, you know?
Yeah. And then it's funny, like, it's the blast from the past that get me as well. Like, I don't know if you ever remember there was this event called Freestyle at Fed Square. It was huge outdoor. This was like a huge show that happened at Fed Square with like rap battles. I can't even remember if anyone actually performed.
It would have been the early days of Fed Square, though, because...
Yeah, we're talking 05 or 06.
It just opened up, I reckon. Not much.
Yeah. And, mate, there's no way you'll pull this off in 2025. It was like flooded, and it was just like outdoor rap battles, and then there was ciphers. I remember there was like a 30-man cipher going at once, any direction that you look, but there was families and stuff up in the crowd, people drinking left, right, and center, smoking weed. Like, I remember, like, you'd look left and you see, I remember like Nectar and Flush and those guys all in this huge sci-fi. Everyone's rapping. You look to the right, you see like older C-dub dudes from my area. Like, it was chaos. And then I was getting on stage and like battle rapping and everything, and this guy sent me a message on Instagram not long ago, and he was like, man, I remember you from like Freestyle at Fed Square, like 05. I don't know, I had to look at the profile. It didn't really seem like a full hip hop head, but it's like somehow they've found you in the algorithm.
Is there footage out there of it anywhere?
Oh man, there'd have to be. Yeah, but it's probably like probably still videotapes back then, or like 2 megapixel phone cameras, you know what I mean? Like, but that was like, yeah, just, it was larger than life, all the events and stuff like that. But the social media thing's crazy. I get a lot of people that hit me up out of the woodwork, and they're like, oh, do you remember those kind of particular years? Because I think we all have like a fond connection to our like formative years with hip hop. You know,
Yeah.
I still love all the heads from back in that generation, because it's like you have this kinship. You were there at a certain era and certain time and certain areas, certain hoods, you know. So yeah, that's what's crazy about social media now, is like reconnecting with people. And
It is, man. And the thing is, you've gone on to do a lot of interesting stuff, and you've had a pretty interesting life. But some people, they fuck around a bit when they're in their teenage years, and then they just get a job and they just chill out and they don't do that much interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So they relive all that stuff. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And that's why I think they reach out, because they're like, back in the day, we used to do that with this person.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to them. You know?
yeah,
what I mean?
100%. I think sometimes they're intrigued that I'm still living like that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I've never really been like, I've never really been one to live a normal life. I just can't do it. I couldn't do it if I tried, you know what I mean? It's just,
not for me.
Sometimes over the years, I've had like bouts of depression and epochs of my life where I thought, man, I wish I could just be that guy that has like a wife and a kids and job and
The grass is always greener, though, man.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like, also, you got to learn to love yourself for who you really are too, you know what I mean? This is who I actually am, you know?
Too many people try and change everyone else to be like them, but let people be who they are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We see it a lot with older generation. They're like, you got to get a real job and you got to like settle down and do this and do that. And that's like saying to an older person, you've got to not have a real job and fucking just fumble your way through life. That's not for them. That's not for them. Just let people be who they are, you know?
Yeah, that's right. It's like, mate, we've got one life on planet Earth, you know what I mean? It's like you got a lot more agency over what you want to do with it than you think.
For sure.
So it's like you don't have to be this way, that way. You know, everyone always kind of follows the leader, or they pick a pathway that someone else is doing and try and emulate it because they think it's going to give them a certain result. It's like, mate, you just got to blow all that shit out of the water and just be who you are and just live your life and just try and have as much control, you know?
Yeah.
There's only so many things we can control on like a global level or a political level or environmental level, whatever it is.
Do your own head in sometimes, man, worrying about it. I stress out about AI and shit. I really do. I'm like, man, what's going to happen? And I'm like, fuck, I can't change it. I just have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. It's just like, mate, we are just, especially we talk about social media, we're just like inundated by fucking tragedy. And even you would probably understand this too on a hip hop level, man, the hip hop scene did attract a lot of outcasted youth and a lot of people from broken homes. And, you know, there's no secret that the link between all these kind of upbringings and trauma does result in a lot of like sad tales. You know, it's like nearly every week still to this day, it's like someone tells you some yarn, oh, this bloke passed away, or this bloke overdosed, this bloke's in jail, this bloke's like lost it mentally. I was having this chat with Selzy the other day. We were saying like if you could chart like a before and after of so many of the people we grew up with, so many of them are just like cooked. They're in like long-term drug-induced psychosis, guys just like in and out of jail, and just a myriad of just depressing things. And then you've got other really sad things, like this guy turns out to be like a sex offender or something, full pooch, you know, rapist or whatever. Or it's like, it might sound strange to people outside of the hip hop scene, but it's that underbelly of, you know, certain scenes attract certain demographics. And there was a lot of like kids from broken homes and with traumas and kids from lower socioeconomic status that got into hip hop, you know what I mean? And we all hung around together and knocked around, and then...
But not even that, though, man. I think some of the negativity of hip-hop actually perpetuated some people to be worse, if that makes sense, because they hear about all this negativity through the music and they go, well, this is what they're rapping about. I want to do that too, which is a kind of the negative side of that hip-hop stuff, because people look up to those rappers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, I guess, yeah. Like, for sure. It's like, it all has an influence, and then, you know... Especially more on the crime side of things too, because like there's guys here that live a lifestyle that's actually very akin to what people are rapping about in New York and LA and that kind of thing. You know, it's like, yeah, it's not so, the lifestyles are not so different, you know.
No. And I think as most people get older, they realise and they get a bit more mature and they're like, okay, but not everyone, man. Some people stay in it. You eventually sort of drag yourself out of that stuff in your 20s?
Yeah, I've made a long... You know, it's funny, like, even I post a lot of photos on, like, Instagram these days, a lot of throwbacks. You notice all the throwbacks are, like, they kind of stop at about 06, 07, and then all of a sudden photos of me just pick up in, like, 2021, you know? My whole 20s was just this weird oscillation between, like, drugs, crime, depression, back into the hip-hop thing, long periods of trying to get my shit together. Like, I just kind of really fluctuated throughout a lot of my 20s.
And just repeated, rinsed and repeat?
Rinsed and repeated. About I used to make money, make money, blow money, get super depressed, have suicidal thoughts, get really positive again, start getting fitter again. You know, I just did it. Like, it took a long time to come back to, like, an equilibrium point, which I'm certainly at now, but...
Sobriety, is that, or what are the certain factors that balance it out?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe it's not what everyone wants to hear, but my opinion is like drugs and alcohol, these kind of things are just coping mechanisms. And I know a lot of people struggle that when you finally, it's such a battle to get rid of the coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And then when you finally get rid of them, you think everything's going to be like hunky-dory on the other side, but sometimes that's where the real work starts. You know what I mean? All you've done is got rid of the mask, but it's a huge effort in itself, and it's a huge accomplishment. But to me, it was more about my actual mental health. Like, man, I've seen a psychologist for 10 years. I've worked a lot on myself in the background, you know what I mean? All my greatest victories are lived in private, right? You know what I mean? It's like, that's just kind of the realities of it. But I think for me, it was, yeah, definitely like yeah, I still drink. I don't do drugs anymore, not since 2022. But, yeah, it's like, for me, it was more so about, like, yeah, it was more a mental health battle. And
But when the thing is like, and obviously men talking about mental health or people in general talking about mental health has come a long way. But if you're living that lifestyle and you're doing criminal stuff and doing all that sort of shit, you can't turn to your mate and go, "Hey man, I'm a bit depressed and anxious." They're like, "Nah, snap out of it." You know what I mean? You're not talking about it like that, are you?
Yeah, I mean, there was points along the way where I would talk to guys about it, but it was just kind of that attitude of like, yeah, the world's fucked or life's fucked or fuck it. You know, it's just kind of like you get that on the big jobs. You know, like that saying is just like the biggest catch-all. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, guys will say stuff like that. They go, oh, you know, got drunk last night, sideswiped 3 cop cars, cheated on my girlfriend, I fucking blew up the National Bank. But you get that on the big jobs. You know what I mean? It's like you could just sweep anything under the rug with these kind of expressions, you know. But yeah, I guess there's definitely a stigma. And I think it's more so like my own shame, you know, back then. It's like I didn't really want to tell anyone I was like sort of struggling and, you know, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It wasn't so much about how I thought other people would react a little bit, but it was more like I was just ashamed to sort of admit that I'd lost control of my mental health and I'd lost control of my life. And I felt like at some stage like I'd squandered all my gifts and all this kind of stuff, you know, which I don't think was actually correct, but that's how I felt at the time, right?
Yeah,
You know,
and then you take mental health into consideration, but you add that to coming down off, you know, substances, and then it really kind of spirals, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's about barriers too. Like, I think sometimes if people have never broken certain barriers, they don't understand like what that's like. You know, if you have like a, trying to think of the best example, you know, someone could have a tough day and think, you know what, I might come home and have a bowl of ice cream. Some people have a tough day and think I'll come home and have a 8 ball of booba. You know, because some people have broken certain barriers that others haven't. So your brain triggers to certain destinations. Like your brain goes through like, you know what I mean? Your brain goes straight through 10 barriers all the way to something extreme as like a trigger reaction, whereas some other people have never really broken that barrier. And my lifestyle was just so out of the ordinary. I mean, I never had a full-time job till I was 28. I worked 1 day a week most of my 20s, you know, like, yeah, it was just, my whole lifestyle was so left of center and everything that I was doing, and I'd broken so many barriers that it was very difficult for me to achieve like some kind of wholesome balance within
Normality.
myself. Yeah.
So when you would have your bouts of when you said you're going through the cycles, if you did get clean and sort of get yourself together, get healthy, would there be a trigger that sent you back, or it was just a matter of time?
No, no real specific triggers. That's the thing for me. It was just, yeah, it was more so I missed the rush of everything. And I think, yeah, I found it hard to get a rush from anything. And the hip hop scene had changed so much. By this stage, it was kind of the YouTube era kicked in. Everyone's just doing film clips and it was much more online and offline. And I wasn't sort of getting the same rush that I get from the hip hop scene. And then I was kind of like too depressed to make music, or I was just making beats or something like that. And it was on and off. I'd have 6 months on, 6 months off, but I just didn't really have the passion for it that I had when I was younger. And I think it was just, I'd go into these long tunnels of like just feeling flat. And then it's like, I want to rush, you know what I mean? And that comes from, you know, drugs is one thing, but crime is another thing too. Like that, just the actual behavior like gives you a rush, you know, and it's like you start going looking for that level of rush all the time. The dopamine hits have to be so extreme all the time, and
You got to level up the dosage like you would with drugs, but yeah, you got to make it a little bit crazier.
yeah, and then, you know, you fluctuate with money and you get desperate and that kind of stuff, or not so much desperate, but you start thinking like, now I'm getting older, I'm well into my adult life, like I don't want to have to like get a job, I don't want to do this, like I need to make like big fucking cash, you know what I mean? It's like that you know, it's like you can feel it in your chest, like this kind of like claw on the back of your neck, like you gotta hustle hard, gotta do this, gotta do that. But because I'm just almost so afraid of like slowing down and living a normal wholesome life, because it just made me anxious.
So what's the catalyst to sort of get you out of that, man? Where does that happen?
I think in my kind of late 20s, I kind of really rediscovered my passion for like hip hop, for starters. Kind of reframed the relationship I had with hip hop. I started catching up with heads. I got a bit distant with some of my old hip hop friends because I was so caught up in the 24/7 hectic lifestyle. And then, yeah, I was just seeing what people were doing. I was tapping back in and seeing like some of my friends had come a long way and they were just doing amazing projects and stuff. And I was like, maybe I should try to do a bit more of this. And I think I was like, you know, a lot of serious shit was going down with people around me and that kind of thing. And you know, everyone's just like getting hurt, going to jail, and things like that, and you start sort of thinking like, yeah, like I want to be creative again. That's kind of just how it started. It was just like kind of innocence. Like I want to stop feeling like a shell of myself and get back in touch with my creativity, you know. And then it was like start linking up with heads, and then you're getting a bit of a buzz, and then
Are you 28 at this point?
yeah, probably around then.
Because you know everything goes in 7-year cycles, and 28
Yeah.
is the 7-year cycle. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah. 28's a very interesting age, you know, on the cusp of 30, but your mid 20s, your early 20s is gone. It's
And you've been an adult for 10 years, so that's kind of subconscious in there as well. Like a legal adult, you know?
yeah, 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 yeah. And then I guess like yeah, people around me were doing really interesting projects. There was a couple of like waves of like really cool music that was coming out from overseas, and yeah, I just kind of got back into it in that kind of sense. Like,
And you were talking to somebody like a psychologist or something as well. You said you had your mental health stuff. Were you getting that on the right track?
yeah, 100%. Like that was one of the best things I've ever done. I know people have mixed experiences. I had mixed experiences before finding the psychologist that I did, but
That's all. That's what it is, isn't it? It's finding the right person. The right
Yeah.
person is out there. You may not find them to start with.
yeah, 100%. And then I started taking a liking to fitness, you know, started running. And then like these days I train weights more. I'm not in the best shape of my life, but you know, it's that was a big thing for me because I was really overweight when I was young, which was really like difficult. I spoke about that on the podcast I did and blah, blah, blah. But I started taking a bit of a liking to fitness and again, I started getting a bit of a rush out of that. I'm always someone that's looking for the rush. So yeah, I kind of started enjoying like looking back at the early hip hop years with like a nostalgic kind of tint with a lot of friends of mine. And it just kind of, yeah, just reconnected with that innocence of like, just wanting to do fresh shit and just hang out and just the whole larger than life. I'd done away with the whole idea of like being a popular rapper or being a success at like something. I just wanted to do things. I just
For the
wanted-
art.
for the art, everything. I wanted to get shit done, you know, and it was like everything just became yeah, everything just became kind of fresh again. I had like a new lens on everything, and you know, maybe I needed the time away. Like life's crazy like that. It's like sometimes I feel like I've wasted years. I did feel like that for a long time when I came back. I felt like I was playing catch up, and sometimes I do. It's like that old claw right at the back of my neck that I was talking about before. It's like there's a claw there that's like you got to make up for lost time, like how many years that you wasted or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, man, there's so many things I could. You know what I mean? I could talk a glass eye to sleep if we're going to talk about all the things that happened over those years. I mean, I'm giving like a very top line explanation of my 20s here, but
Yeah.
so many yarns, so many stories, so many crazy things I saw that I could go into detail about. That at the end of the day, one thing is I learned a lot in those years. Like I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about human nature in my 20s. Yeah, so I learned a lot of social skills, all that kind of stuff, which has sort of helped me later on. So I don't regret like looking back. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a period you had to go through.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So
And this happens a lot. Like when you speak to people, like you said, when you're 18, you're like, I'm just going to live this life forever. And everyone thinks they're going to be immature forever. And they see older heads and they're like, I'm not going to be like them. But you can't buy the maturity. And that's what happens during those 20s and sort of, those years. You learn and you become mature. And then you look back and you go, I get what
Yeah.
those old heads are on about now.
yeah. And then like I always say like you never want to be king of the kids either too, you know. A lot of guys went down that kind of route of just still like they never evolved, and then they were just like they push their ego onto younger generations. And the funny thing is, I'm probably even in blanket including mates of mine in this too, people I got love for, but it was like, you know, it was like how many people back in the day said like, I'll never touch needles. Or, you know, how many people when we were 17, 18 that said these kinds of things, or I'll never end up like those old fucking brassies. We would, like, I'd be out with mates, we'd see people, and they'd be like, that old fucking junkie, like, I'll never end up like that, like, have a look at him, blah, blah, blah. But 10 years later, those guys that I was standing there with, like, in like a spitting image of that guy or something, you know, it's like...
It's inevitable though, really, isn't it? If you don't pull yourself out of it, you just
Yeah.
get deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and I think we tend to like we all fall into the trap of like self-referencing against other people. Like, so I would sort of start to look at other people and be like, "Ooh, like, man, do I really want to end up like that guy?" Or look what happens when you do X, Y, Z. You know. So I was sort of just like, you know what, fuck it, this journey of life is my own journey. Like, I own my own story.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to do away with victimhood. I think like I always acknowledge victimhood, but I think victimhood is like a really it's a mental prison. You know, it's just like, you know what? It's like this is my life and these are my people around me, and yeah.
It's one of those things that people just have to want to change themselves. You can tell people what they want to hear or what you think they need to hear as much as till the cows come home. But people have to come to that realization, realize they're in control of their own life and drag themselves out of that shit, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And also props to everyone else. It's like I said before, we've got one life on planet Earth. I've got mates that are still like, they've chosen their path. I had a conversation with a good old mate of mine the other day. It's just like, you know what I mean? Still running hectic, using everything, hot, cold, whatever. And he says to me, he's like, he's happy to hear that I'm doing well. But it's like, in his mind, he's like, oh, he's like made his bed, he's laying in it, that's him. So I don't judge either. It's just like, we're still good friends. So it's like, I never forget people too, but it's like, I've made my choices, you make your choice. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's probably sounds really primitive, but the rules are the rules. It's like, you know, never lagged, never turned on people for nefarious reasons, whatever like that. You kept your character the whole way through it. And other guys, maybe they are playing up, maybe they are caught in this, like, their lifestyle is just a whirlwind of shit. But some of these guys, you know, like, they stayed loyal, their heart's pure, they never lagged.
But
you know,
yeah,
I'm
for
not
sure.
going to turn on them, you know. So.
But with the substance stuff, sometimes people just aren't ready till they're sort of ready.
Yeah.
I've talked to people on this show that have gone to rehab 10 plus times, but when they're 44, they decided that was the time and then they got clean. You know what I mean? You just never know, man. So some people just aren't ready to get themselves out of those sort of situations until they are.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, and I think, you know, we're all different. Everyone's got their own kind of...
And it's never too late to try as well.
Yeah, 100%. Never too late for anything, you know. Like, sometimes I feel a bit weathered, a bit old. I'm only 34, right? But I started hanging around so young that I feel like I made 20 plus years in this lifestyle and feeling a bit old. And I'm doing a new album at the moment and start thinking like, you know, maybe rapping's a young man's sport or that kind of stuff. But you're never too old. I played 2 shows for the first time in 8 years. I played a show with Pirate Mafia, big up to Jeansa. He got me on that. And I played a show with Posse Shot. Big ups to the boys, Posse Shot. They, out of the blue, hit me up, which is another thing I've always really appreciated over the years, right? When I'm totally irrelevant, there's people that have hit me up, like Posse Shot boys. I was on the City Loop compilation. I dropped 5/5 of fuck all in the years before that, but those guys just hit me up out of the blue because I've known them for a long time, wanted me to get involved in that. There was guys that reached out to me wanting to beats or a verse or something, and it's like, I never forget heads that hit me up when I wasn't super relevant to the scene and I wasn't as active. Because I feel like sometimes, you know, it's like when everyone's popping off, you start popping. If I could pop off tomorrow, everyone's going to want a verse or a beat, or they're going to want to link up and take photos together and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. That's the nature of the game, you know?
Yep.
But I definitely appreciate people from that whole era that I'm talking about that reached out to me or wanted to work with me or wanted to get something done with me when I was totally irrelevant to the scene, when I was barely posting on Instagram, when I wasn't playing shows, when I had no songs out, when I'd gone dark, you know, and then...
But they saw the previous potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 'Cause so many people, I've known them for 20 plus years now. It sounds crazy to say that. I used to listen to older heads say that, like 20 plus years in the game, like, whew, you know, that sounds like hectic, you know?
Yeah.
And then now, like, it is true. Like, I went to the first show, or the first battle I did was like the very start of 04. We're nearly at the end of 2025 now, so it's like, yeah.
It's happening, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes quick, man.
It does, man. It does.
I had a guy message me the other day and he said, because I'm in my early 40s, I'm 43, he goes, man, it's so cool to see someone like you doing something in your 40s. It made me feel old, but it also made me sort of go, oh, yeah, because I didn't do this 2 years ago. I just sort of started doing it. And he's like, man, you've inspired me to do something, and I'm in my 40s. So there's never too late to find a passion project and take it off, you know?
100%. And I think sometimes when you've been seasoned in the game, like you've been around a long time, right, obviously doing your thing, you can multiply it, you compound quick. Like, look how far you've built this podcast.
But I wish I knew this. Wish I knew what I wanted to do this years ago.
Right.
Like I didn't find it until I was 40. So I've got mad respect for these kids that are 19, 20 that know what they want to do because they're 20 years ahead of me.
Yeah. I think we all suffer from that, you know, but if this, if that, you know.
Yeah.
My auntie had a dick, she'd be my uncle. My grandma had wheels, she'd have been a bike, you know. It's like,
yeah,
I used to know this old bookie at the horse races that used to say they watch every race. It could have gone this way if the jockey had have gone back to the fence, if they had have pulled up, blah, 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 blah. But well, if my auntie had a dick, she'd be my uncle. You know, it's like there's only so much you can dwell on the past. You know?
And that's it, man. You can't. And like, there's a lot of quotes out there, but it's like, don't let yesterday's mistakes become tomorrow's problems, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You've got to move on at some stage and not beat yourself up about the times you fucked up or the times that you missed opportunities or whatever. You just got to focus on what you can change.
Yeah. And I think especially with the hip hop thing, there's a lot of like careerists, you know, which I certainly, as I spoke about when I was young, that's what I wanted to be, like a career, like MC, you know. And it's like, I actually think I feel so blessed these days. Personally, everyone's different, but personally, I feel blessed that I don't give a shit about any of that. I'm back to living like the hip hop lifestyle, like when I was 13, 14, 15, whatever I want to do, you know. And I do more stuff outside hip hop now, but it's like, man, if I want to go bombing, if I want to write an article about food, if I want to drop a track, you know what I mean? I don't care if like no one looks at it, you know. I still post all the stuff and I give it, you know, give it justice to some degree, but it's like I move on with my life. I've got a daily life. I've got more important things, you know. So I think for me personally, like it's been an absolute blessing to just kind of let go of the reins of having expectations and caring about what other people think or whether something becomes a success or not, or making money. That's tainted, you know what I mean? It's like, I've never really looked at hip hop like that. Making money, mate. There's a million ways to make money outside hip hop, you know. And I think it taints the experience when you see artists and people get so wound up because it's not working from a financial perspective. It's like I think you've lost touch with
why you were doing it in the first place. For sure, I see that a lot, man. And people that remove their art from their work make better art, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's only a handful of people, I think, in this whole country that can comfortably say they make the art exactly how they want to make it and they do pretty well off it financially. It's a grind for most people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You either lose the passion for the art because you're selling yourself out too much, or you're making stuff that you don't want and it's affecting the art you do want to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot of pressure to start making money off one thing. I think a lot of people get in their head about how they can keep delivering and everything, and sometimes it makes the creativity like stagnant. I reckon you just got to make what you make. You know what I mean?
And then when it comes to success of music or hip hop music in particular in the country, there's not that many people that do it, and not that many people that have done it and come out of the other side, you know, well adjusted. A lot of people have been through some shit that have been successful.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, few and far between the stories, man. Like, yeah, and yeah, man, it's like it's such a like pipe dream thing for so many people. But I know like it's an ugly thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But I know looking at heads over the years, there's a lot of people that secretly like are thinking, I'm going to start cashing out off this once I drop the albums and I drop the merch and I'm going to do the shows, and they see this infrastructure and everything, and it's just like reminds me of guys that are like, you know, 5 a.m. at a kick on, trying to do it, create a startup, you know, zigzagging off a plate, thinking they're going to make like some tech company or some like app, you know.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that talk a little bit. So
man, 100%. I think if you go into any art with the idea of making money, you're doing it wrong from the start. Go into a business to make money. Go into an artistic endeavor to do something artistic to scratch that itch that you've got, you know?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah,
100%.
that's why I don't make any money off this, but I do it exactly how I want to do it, you know?
Yeah. And it's crazy because people would probably think, look how many hours you pumped into this, all the logistics that go into like putting it out. But obviously it gives you something emotionally. It doesn't give you maybe money, but it gives you something else that keeps you coming back. Otherwise you wouldn't torture yourself doing it, you know? So.
No, man, I would, if we weren't recording, you know, and you were going to give me the book, we'd hang out and have a beer and have it. We'd do this. We're just recording it. You know what I mean? It's giving me an opportunity to meet people, chat with them, hang out, catch up with old friends, make new friends. It's what I was supposed to do. It just took me a long time to fucking find it.
Yeah. And I think for me, as it's come 360, you know, I'm talking about earlier, 04, 03, 05, all those years in there when it's like living that 360-degree hip-hop lifestyle. In a way, I'm doing that now at 34 years old. I leave the house on a day off, might go out for like a beautiful lunch, I might end up writing an article about that, catch up with a mate, have a few beers, yarns, this, that, drop a tag, you know, write some bars. It's like, I'm just back to that lifestyle, you know? It's just like...
Has it been good connecting with old heads that you haven't seen for a while?
Yeah, man, 100%. Like, so good. Good to see a lot of people kicking goals. Like, oh, man, it's been crazy, you know? Like, I've been recording with Discourse again. It sometimes does give you a feeling. It's different, you know? Like, he's got got a daughter now, got a partner, and got a mortgage and all that sort of stuff. But then again, it's like, you know, it reminds me of being like 14, 15 years old, going around to his house and checking out what he's doing. I'm still looking up to his output. You know, hung out with Flu for the first time in a while the other week. Always on the phone, salesy. I was still friends with so many heads, man. And that's the biggest thing that I think now has just been amazing. The probably the most craziest thing about the hip hop journey and like my lifestyle is like this is going to sound like one of those memes, like the friends you make along the way. You know, it's like it's corny, but it's like, yeah, I got amazing friends from like many years. You know, even like one of my best mates, Craig. Right, we used to go to hip hop shows every weekend together. He was always down for it. He was really into the battle scene. He put on one of the first ever like structured written battle leagues called Jump Off in Melbourne. He moved overseas. I think he was in like London for 8 years, Canada for 4 years. Like he was gone for a long time. And then it's like we're still really close friends. And that's one thing about me, that I'm blessed to have so many good friends from so many walks of life. And, you know, I've been through a lot of like political situations, dangerous political situations, been in the middle of, and always stuck fat, held my ground. I've been friends that don't like each other, all that kind of ins and outs, all the dramas over the years, but I've still retained like amazing friendships with a lot of people, which I'm truly blessed for. And I also look at other people now in this day and age, and I think if they've been around a long time, like props and respect, even if we're not like friends or I don't know them yet or something. I think like survivalists of the hip hop game, which probably sounds so corny, but it's like, they've been around a long time. It's like a lot of people lost their way on drugs, or they fucked people over. They're social climbers, or they went downhill. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, lagged and disappeared, or, you know, there's so many ins and outs like that over the years. So if you look at people now in 2025 that have been around a long time, I think, oh yeah, like probably solid bloke, you know, or it's like their heads, their knockabouts. It's like, that's always what it was. It's like, I don't care like who someone is. You can be the most famous guy I know, the least famous guy I know. I don't really care about all that kind of stuff. It's just, I look at friends of mine and people in my network and I think, yeah, they're staunch, they're solid, they're knockabouts, have been around a long time, never buckled. They're great people, great hearts. Like, what a pleasure, you know, to know them and to knock around. So
yeah, for sure. So besides the hip hop stuff, you're talking about the food journey as well, man. How did that kick off?
Man, I always loved food. I mean, I was really overweight when I was younger. I was addicted to junk food, right? But then, like, fast forward many years, I was just, like, always in Box Hill, eating, trying different things, Chinese food, and exploring cuisine. And then I think the older I got, probably the less I was partying, the more I was, like, starting to get into, like, really appreciating food. Then I was trying to cook myself. I found, like, cooking was really good for, like, focus and my mental health. And it was, like, something that was, like, again, the theme is constant throughout everything I do. It's like it's a rush, preparing a dish and being totally absorbed by something. The same way hip hop, crime, everything. It's all the same dynamic, really, for me. So then, yeah, just like kind of getting into all that, and then over time, I was like, you know what, like, I want to start writing. Like, I've always been really into writing. I've always been really into language. So then I was like, I'll start just writing about food. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I ended up starting like a Substack. You know, just not treating it too seriously, you know, just doing it as like an output, just putting the energy into the world that I want to, you know, put into.
Because, look, I'm not that familiar, but I think Substack is like a newsletter type thing where people subscribe and they get... Is that how it works?
Yeah. It's got a news feed and stuff now with like an app, but primarily it's just like you sign up to someone's like Substack and then you get all their articles emailed to you. Sometimes you can have paid subscriptions, but I don't really charge people for any of the articles I do.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, I was, again, it's like coming from that outside perspective. Like, I'm a hip hop head, first and foremost. That's what I've always been. So then when I come into the food game and the hospo game or whatever, I know people in this industry, but I'm looking at food content that's out there and it's just all like kind of like BuzzFeedified kind of like...
Everything's clickbait, man.
Yeah, it's all just like clickbait stuff. So I was like, I want to talk about the 360-degree experience of dining. I want to go off on tangents. I want to talk about food and food history and whatever I'm interested in. So it's like, yeah, the funny thing is, man, I barely read any other food writers. I wish people please send me like good food writers, because I don't know, I'd love to read it, but I'm just like, bang, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't even know if it's a genre or I don't even know if anyone else is out there doing it. Hopefully they are, but I don't know, I just started doing it, you know.
But that's the best way, I think, to make, like, if you go into making music and you've never listened to any other music, you just make it how you want to make it. At least you know you can't be overly influenced by anything else. If you're not reading other food blogs, then you're just doing it your own fucking way.
Yeah, that's right. And then the more I started making rap music again the last few years, I did the album in 2022, and then I'm doing another one now. I'll probably listen to less hip hop. Or the hip hop I listen to is just, most of it came out before 2007, you know? It's like, I'm just listening to stuff from back in the day. But I guess I've always had like a little bit of an odd approach to things, I guess. I don't know, to me it's like normal, but I've always been, you know, a tuppence short of a shilling in that regard. Like, I used to love when I was younger talking about, like, say, language. Like, so it's all intertwined, right? Rapping, writing articles, language. Like, my dad and his uncles used to talk in old Cockney slang. All the boob heads from my area used to talk like that, you know. Slang was part of the aura, like fashion, slang. It was all part of the larger-than-life aura. And then even things like, I grew up in like a horse racing family, right? I've always been really into horse racing. I used to listen to the race callers when I was a kid and be intrigued by the, you know, and then I saw parallels, it sounds stupid, but I saw parallels between that and rapping. When you listen, Australia's got fantastic, like, world-class race callers, and it's like, the way the words used to roll off the tongue, like, you know, if you listen to a race caller, like coming around the bend now, and
There's a flow.
Yeah, it's like, it's got a flow, and then it's got its own language, and it's like freestyling. These guys are calling the shots.
Yeah,
At this at like this intense live kind of level, which is like akin to freestyling or whatever. So I've always drawn conceptual parallels between different things like that. So I guess maybe that kind of influences sometimes what I do is a little bit left of center or something like that. And it's just like, you know, that's where it's coming from. Same with like graffiti. If you see a tag, it's like, I look at sometimes letters like they're dancing, you know, and it's like bouncing off each other, or they're like figures, or it's like, I guess that's particularly pre-internet, I suppose. Everyone was influenced by really similar things, but I think everyone had their own fresh, unique spin on what they were doing, and I think that's how you have to be as an artist. If you're just like kind of replicating what other people are doing, I think you can make something that's like quality by default, but it's too academic for me. I want to see someone have a little bit of a personal touch to what they're doing. I want to get inside the mind of, you know, someone does a tag, why they do the S up that way or the other way, or when a rapper's rapping, why they're saying these bars, why they're putting these obscure references in, like...
Yeah, no, that is the real interesting thing, especially now with AI and all that shit. You know what I mean? You want to see the rawness, you want to see the imperfections, you want to see why that person did that, because there's a lot of polished shit out there.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not legit.
Well, with AI, I think it's going to put a premium, again, this might sound funny because a lot of people think it's going to destroy art. I think it's going to put a premium on art and people that also have great social skills and are good with relationships, because AI is going to wipe out a lot of tasks, right? It's going to do a lot of shit for you, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to replicate the intangible, fresh aura of an individual.
Yep.
And also someone that can have relationships as well, like someone with like good social skills, someone that can maneuver in different circles. You know what I mean? I don't know if AI is gonna catch that. You know,
No, I think it's going to push art to the forefront personally, because everyone's going to have all the boring shit that they don't want to do done for them and automated.
Yeah.
So the only thing left to do will be make more money in some other way that you can find, or make art. That's all that there's going to be left to do in the future.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's could be interesting. I know people have talked about like the world kind of going into this decentralized gig economy thing, but I'm not sure if it's going to be interesting to see where things are going. I mean, I'm not as doom and gloom as I once would have been.
I was earlier this year. I was super bummed out about it, man.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of come to the realization that we can't change it. I'm choosing not to use it. Which people are telling me I'm an idiot. It makes life easier, but I'm just trying to refrain as long as I can.
Yeah. I've actually never used it. I've never used ChatGPT or anything like that. I don't know. I feel like I don't need to, but every now and then, I guess if I needed to, I would do it. But I've heard like crazy shit people are doing. Like, I heard people with cases putting into ChatGPT and then saying, referencing against Australian law, doing like 95% of the casework, and they're just calling law firms and saying like, can you represent me in court? Because like ChatGPT can't actually go to the court case. So it's like they're just finishing off you'd be spewing if you're a lawyer. You want to charge $500 for a phone call. You want to drag it out. You'd be making money that way. I'm not sure the ins and outs of all this stuff, but I keep hearing things.
Well, man, just before my mate texted me and he said, I use ChatGPT, he put his insurance policy through it, realised that he was insured for fuck all, and then pulled it. He's like, man, I've been paying for this. I was only insured for this. So it does have real world use cases, I guess. But that was news to me, man. But it makes sense, I guess. It'll find those loopholes.
Yeah. But I think like art's chill. I think art is safe for now. And I think like, man, there's already so much AI art out there. I've never heard of one famous AI artwork of the modern generation. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe there was, NFTs or something like that, you know what I mean? But, I can't think of any AI artwork that people talk about the same way they talk about the Disguise piece at Gasworks or the Mr. Fiasco piece at Chatham, even on an everyday Melbourne level, let alone the way people talk about, Mark Rothko or something like that. Like I'm yet to see it, and I'm skeptical. I think AI art is just this kind of just this pop fad thing that's sort of like for basic bitches on Instagram kind of thing. I don't know. I can't see it.
I think if it stayed exactly what it is now, I wouldn't be stressed. The stress that I had originally came from it's gonna take all jobs. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the main stress because if it stayed the way it is now and people use it to write emails and stuff, yeah, cool. You can make an AI logo, but it's going to look like trash.
Yeah.
But it's the worry is how much it's going to change and just fucking push into every industry. That was my stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think there's AI podcasts and stuff now, isn't there? But at the same time, no one's going to be able to replicate what you do. There's not going to be a robot Maloney.
Well, no, but I think they're probably getting close to that. But I've had people that have come on this show that have told me they have written a book, right?
Yeah.
They put the book into ChatGPT, right? They just put the PDF in there. Then they said, create me a podcast talking about the book. Bang. And they sent it to me where the two people like you and I are just talking about this book. The two people don't exist. They talk about the book like it's a podcast.
Yeah.
Scary, man.
Man, that's what I appreciate about hip-hop so much because, like, all the skills... Man, like, ChatGPT can do a lot of stuff, but it's like, go bang, you see a rapper drop an amazing freestyle. Like I remember, Delta was a crazy freestyle. I remember seeing him freestyle for half an hour at Street Science one night.
Wow.
Or looking at someone drop like the crazy tag, you know what I mean? Or just all this kind of stuff. Someone's scratching, and it's like,
yeah.
I think I've told the story before about like Johnny Item. When we were young, we used to go to Funk Record Bar on Hoddle Street. And Johnny Item would we were like 13, 14, me and my
That
mates.
was where his store was, wasn't it?
Yeah, the original one across the road from the flats before he moved to Paran. And then you go in there and you would say like, oh, how much do you guys want to spend per record? Little kids, sometimes we want breaks, sometimes we want sample. He would just look at this like entire shop and just start plucking records out. He just knew his whole library, like back to front, like full Yoda of records. And
that's been his life work. Is just records forever.
But there's things like that people have about them, and a lot of my mates, I see stuff like that in them. I'm like, what a sick cunt, when they do something like that, and it's like, I think that's so special because I don't think AI is going to be able to take that from people, it's like, it's still always going to be there, the human element, it's always going to be impressive, like.
For sure. And the thing is with the AI stuff is it's only learnt on what has been before it on the internet.
Yeah.
Where some humans are remembering stuff that isn't on the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be pieces at the gaswork that have never been documented that only real humans can be like, yeah, that's right, that happened. So the AI is only trawling the internet. That's all it's doing, but it's doing it quickly and regurgitating all that internet stuff back to you in microseconds.
Yeah, which is crazy. But at the end of the day, it's like your memories. We could probably talk about hip hop in 05 or 06 or whatever generation. It's like a lot of those kind of stories and yarns and things like that. They haven't made it.
Well, that's why this is good, man.
100%.
People get. And the other thing is with this, I'm not going to edit it. So people say their stuff. It's out there. Some dudes I know have talked to people. It gets edited. They don't get a chance to just openly tell their story and get the shit out there that they want to. And that's why this long form chat stuff is good, man.
Yeah, it's good. I think it allows space. Like even coming to do that, I've only probably done this once before, with Jake doing Beers, Beats and the Beers,
was
like I said,
in
in
Queensland?
Queensland. But it's like, yeah, I was talking to my mate last night, and I was thinking like, shit, what am I going to say, or where am I going to go with it? It's like, you know what it's like. All our memories are so crazy and all over the shop, and so much stuff has happened that it's like, where do you even start? But I think the best thing is like with the long form chats is it gives space for things to come out. You know what I mean? So. Like I interview people for myself for my food blog, and I try to do like audio transcripts if I can, or I try to interview people in person, or I try to give like people the platform, like say whatever the fuck you want to say, because I know what it's like. Is like you're gonna get to the gold, but sometimes you got to give people space. It takes a minute to like microwave yourself into an interview, you know, like it's sort of.
It's
yeah.
you're reasonably young compared to, well, I'm probably average age of most people that would come in, but some of the older heads, they come in and they don't want to forget anything, and they're probably not going to do another podcast like this maybe ever. So they just want to make sure they get everything out, and that's the people that I think overthink it. I'm like, don't stress, and they're like, I don't want to miss a story. I don't want to stress out. I think that's like, I get why they're doing it, but it's just a different approach. They just don't want to fuck it up, and they just go, I want my story told properly because I may not do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially like before the digital realm. Like I was listening to Chrissy's podcast. I knew Chrissy when I was really young. I love Chrissy. And I was hanging to check that podcast, and it's like, yeah, you can see it's like you're trying to map out the history, and then I guess also like there was none of this was like digitized, or it's just in the memory of the people that were there back then, and people want to set the record straight and don't want to disrespect anyone and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's the same even for my generation. It's like there are people out there that try and rewrite history too, and then. You know, then there's the opposite end of the spectrum. I've got mates that have done like incredible things that just never say boo about it. Yeah. You know, because it's like, but if you were there, you were there. You just, so sometimes I guess there's that element of like you want to tell the story the way it is. Like, and I think hip hop's always been like pretty anal about truth. Like truth is just such a concept in hip hop, and people kind of really want to set the record straight, which I totally sympathize with. You know, because
the rewriting history thing is real, man.
Yeah. Man, I've had heads will say in front of you, do you remember back in the day, that night you were there, and then this, that, and they go absolutely sideways, and you're thinking, mate, that didn't happen like that, or, you know, but maybe it's a perception thing, or you think like people try and rewrite history to make themselves look more important than they were, or
they were there but they weren't doing what they said they were, or they just knew that person indirectly. It's interesting, man. It's worked in my favour with this podcast though, because I've had people message me or call me and be like, this guy's going around on Instagram saying that he started this crew or whatever. I'm coming to set the record straight, you know? It works for me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You're like the adjudicator now of...
No, it's not. I'm not saying it's me, but I'm just saying it's now that there's a platform for people to get it out there, they want to come and document that and say, no, that person said that this wall was painted first by this, but it was actually this person. I want to say it, you know? So it's working for me.
Especially like the world of graffiti, because it's so anonymous. You know what I mean? Like people, it's like... Yeah, it's like it's...
Yeah, and it's... Do you know what? I think the people that aren't into graph love the graph episodes more because to them, it's like, who are these people that do it? Like, under the cover of darkness, and you never know who they are, and blah, blah, blah. It's super intriguing for those people.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, mate, I'm out and about on the town all the time now, and I bump into, like, heads that were, like, they were at every hip-hop show back in the day, and then you look at the way they dress now sometimes, and they might be out to dinner with their wife or something like that, and it's like...
Yeah.
You wouldn't pick it on the outside, but it's like some of these guys like did a lot of shit, or they were really talented at one stage, or even like, you know, certain graph writers and certain people that it's like, oh, what? That's that person with that tag. I had so many experiences like that when I was really young. Yeah. Like I was talking earlier about meeting guys like Bias B and all the rappers in the store and the graph writers and stuff like that. It's like you see a tag 10,000 times, and then you meet the guy, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? Like Curveball. I would have thought like, yeah. It's like. And people make up like urban legends. Like remember back in the day, everyone's saying like Vosco was like a 6'5" African on the ice and climbing on all these rooftops and all this kind of stuff. Like people used to say this stuff to you. Or
I've heard he is 6'5" though.
He is 6'5", is he? Yeah. Allegedly, I think he's 7'2". It's like, nah, I don't know, pulling your leg. But like, it's funny. People used to say that, or there's people I've met. They said they were a totally different person. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I'm looking at the stop 'em tag on the wall. I remember meeting this guy who shall go unnamed, but he said to me one night, yeah, stop 'em, this and that. It's like, oh yeah. I knew like it wasn't stop them or whatever. Mates of mine, mates with the bloke or whatever. But you look at people like that getting around. It's like there are people that are just in their head with the whole hip hop experience that do stuff like that, and it's like, so I get the whole history thing. I do get why people are anal. Me, I don't give a fuck, I've been around a long time, had a lot of amazing experiences, done a lot of shit. It's like, I've got a really lightning memory too, which is like a gift and a curse, man. I could tell you what someone was wearing at Ringwood Station in 2004. Wow. I just got like a lightning memory for like a lot of things like that, which is definitely like a gift and a curse, but it's, I'm not gonna politicize it. I don't really give a fuck that much. I've got my life and my story and my journey and that kind of thing. And yeah, I like hearing other people's version of events and history or whatever. So
for sure, man. So with your journey, where's it taking you now? Where are you going? You're doing the food blog stuff. You're making more music the way you want to do it. You're making another album. You're recording raps. You're doing it all.
Doing it all, yeah. Like, I don't know. I just like trying to stay busy, just doing what I want to do. I probably got one more album left in me.
Ever?
I think so, mate. I always say that kind of thing, you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know. I'm getting to the stage too because like I know my hearing's going to go further downhill as well, like we talked about before. So I think I'm going to have this ongoing battle with hearing. So it's
hearing aids, is that an option?
Not really at the moment. It's more like a structural kind of thing. And then, look, at the moment, it's like I'll punch out one more record, see how I go. I've been dropping a lot of like singles. I dropped 4 or 5 singles this year. I got a song dropping tomorrow. I'll just kind of do that as it comes. I'm not taking it too seriously, but I'm just like really enjoying the experience. But doing a record there, and then I'm really into like writing about food and cooking and this kind of stuff. But they're all just hobbies, man. Pursue it. I probably think about fitness and health more than I think about all these things too these days. Stuff like that. Like I'm just trying to live a well-rounded like life, and just whatever projects come along the way, I'll just do it. I definitely want to like write more. I think maybe as time goes on, I get older, the more my hearing becomes a little bit more of a interference, then I'll probably go more into like writing, just
like a book.
Yeah, or just writing in general, whether it's writing about food or writing anything, you know what I mean? Writing articles, like
yeah. Because you've got a passion for literature and for words, and even with that podcast that you did where you told, what is it called? It's
Too Young to Die.
Too Young to Die. You can tell your relationship with language. You want to try and exercise that, and I'm guessing that's a continuation with the writing.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's what I really want to do. Is like just like I don't know. I've always had this fascination with like language and everything, and there's
probably
a lot of
why school was easy for you though.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's a big part of it,
Yeah. There's projects I wanted to do, like, I really wanted to document, like, all this era that we've spoken about, like, all the, like, Y2K, like, gang fashions of Melbourne, but it's been proving really difficult to get photos.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? It's like you look at some of the stuff that comes out of, like, the low-life era in New York and everything. Those guys took so many photos. In Melbourne, it's like, I put a few messages out to different people that I thought would have photos, and it's like, there's not much out there. It's pretty barren, So I have certain, they're just personal fascinations, right? I've always been super into like steez and fashion and style. And then I used to love like back in the day, seeing all like the way the Asian gangs dressed and all the kind of, the graph riders and however, and it's like, I kind of wanted to like document those eras in some kind of visual way with the written component to go with it. But it's proven very difficult to get imagery, you know what I mean? So
yeah, even static images, you're not going to find too much video stuff, but even just photos have been hard to find.
Yeah. And some of the coolest people I ever know were just yahoos that hung around the areas and stuff like that, and guys like that weren't taking photos back then.
You didn't want to document anything, really, did they? No.
Sorry?
They didn't want to document anything.
Nah, that's what it was like. It was like, I was kind of anti-photo for a long time, like too paranoid or too cool for school for photos. And then like, I know there's like a big dialogue about like selfies and people on social media. And I was kind of a little bit like that when Instagram first came out and Facebook and stuff. But then I remember this mate of mine got out of jail and he was like, can you take a photo of me like with the flats in the background, his car and everything, and it's like there he is, and it's like polo leather jacket on and everything, and he was just like so hyped, and he was like, you don't understand what this means if I get this printed and I send it to the boys inside to show them how I'm doing. And it kind of changed my perspective. It was like, man, I actually really love to see like heads from back in the day, even if it's just a photo of them in fucking Bali with their missus or them with their kid or something. I'm like, yeah, like look at that guy, he's he's kicking goals and he's out there and I've got like a visual to put to it, and it's like I kind of changed my tune about all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, fresh, like why not like flick up yourself looking dope or feeling yourself or whatever. And it's like I used to just kind of
Cringe at it, yeah.
yeah, I was a bit anti, and then now it's like, you know what, like I understand. It's like a time capsule. It's like good friends of mine have passed away. Like I remember when Gargs passed away and I went looking for like a photo of me and Joey Gargoyle. I'm thinking, man, there's got to be heaps. You just go through the camera roll. It's like, there's got to be heaps, And you realize you got one photo together in this dark purple club, and it's like, there's probably other photos out there that other people had, but it's like, wow, like, that's the sad reality is like people move on, people pass away, and then sometimes it's like, where's that time capsule, that visual of that era? And the more I look at it now and look back at all the throwbacks, it's like, oh man, so glad I've got that photo, because a lot of it's from digital cameras before smartphones and stuff, and I sort of think, well, maybe I should fucking flick up a photo with me and my mate, we're out chilling, or a photo of me doing something or whatever, because you just don't know. And it's just like, sometimes we have this visual like trail of breadcrumbs to look at as well, and I think nostalgia is a bit of a curse. I think sometimes you can go too far looking backwards, but I do like having that there to always like reference. Sometimes you got to look like how far you've come, or look back to certain times and evoke certain feelings, even for certain projects. It's like, yeah.
Would you, if you were in your early 20s and you looked at yourself now, would you think, oh yeah, I'll be there? Or would you think I'll be somewhere totally
Nah, man. I'll probably, yeah, roundabouts, but yeah, I would probably think something different, man. I wouldn't even know, to be honest, And for all the like overthinking and everything that I've did, that's a funny thing, is it's like I wouldn't have really known. I didn't really know where things were heading, even though I was like so paranoid and stressed and used to overthink about life and all that kind of stuff. I still had no real like kind of direction, I guess, of where things really wanted to head. And I think sometimes I got things that I want to achieve in life always, but they're more like measurable goals with time frames. I never really think about like 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I don't really think on those time frames, Maybe if I had children or something, I'd start to look at it differently. I guess you've got then like a legacy beyond the self. I see that in a lot of my friends that have children.
Yep.
But for me, I just look at like, what am I smashing out today? What am I smashing out this week? What am I going to smash out for the end of the year? It's basically 2026 now. So it's like, okay, what am I smashing out in 2026? What am I doing? What do I really want to do? What's the most important? What's not that important? Just try to rank everything and just not overthink projects. I think that's another thing that artists can suffer from, is like just not pulling the trigger, holding on to things for too long. It's like, just ship it,
Or start it.
Start it, yeah. Start it, ship it, do it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like funny. It's like you do a tag or something, and then you're like, oh fuck, like I hope that gets buffed. Like that was not my finest work. But then someone else that you might be bombing with just looks like, fuck it, it's up. And it's like, oh yeah, when you look at it removed of the emotion, you know what I mean? Someone else like, fuck it, it's up. It's like, just ship it, just do it. It's never going to be the last thing you do. Nothing's ever, it's like you can always just do more. So it's like, I think you just got to keep punching shit out, and just, I think also like not overthink the work that's involved. Like, I work on projects every day, like at least an hour or two. You know what I mean? And then some days, not every day, I guess, maybe 5 days out of 7, but it's like, you can't conquer the world in one day, but you can chip away at it.
You can make a start.
And I think that's a big thing, is like artists. Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before. It's like you lose sight of what it was like. When you were young, you just turned up to a venue and you just met people, you just got on stage, you did the freestyle, you did the battle, mate. It was all just loose as fuck, And it was like, none of that shit was perfect, but it was fresh, it was dope, and people got down with it. And then the older you get more stuck in your head about the professionalism and the fucking academicism of projects. And I kind of tried to do away with all that. And I'm like, fuck it, ship it, like just keep it loose, keep it fresh, keep it raw, and then just like, punch it out.
What do you think of the state of hip-hop in the country at the moment?
I'll be totally honest, man. I don't even say this to be contrarian. I don't look at a whole lot of stuff, to be honest, man. There's like 6 million reels of people rapping on Instagram. There's all that kind of stuff. I see stuff coming out of different states. people send me records every now and then. They're like, you got to check this guy. That's normally how I'll check stuff. If a mate of mine's like, look, I've been working with this guy, or this guy did a record. I think the state of it is, it's different, but I'm not a hater. It's different from my generation, right? I kind of exist in this mental time capsule of my generation, which is different to the late 80s heads, the early 90s heads, whatever. But I think the actual state of it is good in the sense that it's quite decentralized. You can just build your own thing now with social media. You can be from anywhere in Australia that's got internet, and you can build your own steez, your own style, and you can connect with like-minded people. It's very decentralized compared to like it used to all be the same kind of events, the same battles, the same gigs that everyone had to go to, which I thought was dope. I used to like really enjoy that, but I think it's like kind of healthy now. But I don't look at a lot of it, and I don't connect emotionally with like a lot of it, So, but it's good to see people having a crack. That's what I like. Everyone's out there having a dip,
And everyone can be a one-person band now. Like, if you've just got a computer, like with Sony Acid 6 or whatever you've got, and a microphone, you can record your own track, you can put it out there. If it's good, people will listen to it. If it's not, it'll sit there and they've put something out. So the barrier to entry's never been easier for people,
Yeah, that's right. And it's also like, I have heard there's convincing arguments at the same time too that people should be like better because you've got the entire history. It's like AI, right? We're talking about AI. You've got the entire world's information. You should be able to comb that and come up with whatever you're trying to come up with as an output. If you look at now, if I think about getting into hip hop in 2025, you can learn how to have a studio in 2 seconds. You can look back at the entire history of hip hop. You know what I mean? The guys before and I was lucky too in my generation, but guys that got into this in 91, 92, 93. Imagine what a mission it would have been to work out how to press a record, but before that, to record a song, to make a beat, to referencing against hip-hop overseas or whatever, and then even how to conduct yourself about putting out a record or something like that. Now, it's like you can kind of just get in touch with anyone and ask them, and they'll probably lend you a helping hand. It's like all the tools are there, like in 2025, to do anything that you want. So I guess like younger generations have it easy in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. Like
the flip side of that is it's an oversaturated market with everyone's a rapper, everyone's a producer, everyone's a DJ. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's cool seeing people just doing creative stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And there's still heads from my generation still doing stuff, and before that, which is like really dope. And I always check stuff like that. I always check all my mates' releases. I don't know. I just think like time is like a finite resource, and if I open Instagram and I see like 70,000 people doing reels just like next to a river or in their bedroom or something like that or whatever, I don't know, like it's not even from like a diss perspective. I just can't feed into it. I haven't got the time and the energy to spend 3 minutes watching like some random thing. So I think like things have to really like get drilled into me. If I start hearing a certain name and everyone's like 4, 5, 6 different people in my orbit are telling me, oh, they know this bloke and he's doing cool stuff and this guy's making killer beats, or this guy, okay, like, yeah, I better tap in, you know what I mean? Or if I meet someone when I'm just out drinking or something like that and they're cool and then we end up having each other on Instagram, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll listen to the reel or to the music, or I might click the Spotify link and have a listen. But I don't know, man. I'm still listening to like Prowler, Lone Wolf, and Gargoyle, Saint Sinner, and I don't know. Like
you're getting nostalgic though. Like you're kind of that's your sort of golden era sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I guess so. Yeah,
it's all relative to where you come into that scene though. Do you know what I mean? Like some people will be like, oh, my first introduction was this, and that's my golden era. Everyone's different,
Yeah, and I think like just the way you look at people now, because it's like so online. Do you remember years ago it kind of used to be like what line they were from, what area? Because like I'm from Ringwood, so it was like Lilydale, Belgrave line, but I hung out a lot in Dandy, and then I went all over. I used to go like all city, hanging out with kids, like hang out, Method's house in Braybrook when I was 14, and go to see Discourse in Glen Iris. It was like everywhere. I just went all over the city, go to any kid's house, but it was kind of like you did kind of identify writers and rappers like, oh, they're from that line or whatever. And I always used to have a soft spot for like Dandelion, Frankston line, because they were the most akin to the Belgrave line in terms of like fresh, how they dressed. From, the neighborhoods were kind of adjacent, kind of similar and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was like the way you quantified everyone and looked at everyone was like on a map. And then when they all came together for these big hip hop shows, now it's like might get some, we'll see some reel in the algorithm of some guy rapping, mate. I don't know if he's from Wagga Wagga or from Churnside Park, you know what I mean?
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Man, I had Ivan Ooze on this show, and people were commenting like, I didn't know that guy was from Melbourne, you know what I mean? Because people have been following him from all around the world. He does his thing with a different accent, and people are like, I thought he was Canadian. So you just don't even know anymore, man.
Yeah, right, yeah. I wonder if what people overseas would think, like, if they play records of mine or something, and wonder whether, you know.
Well, you don't really know, man, do you? Like it's like I was actually going to ask you this question, which is a good segue. If you've got someone from anywhere around the world and they say, "I want you to play me an Aussie hip hop record," right? Just one, so I get what it's about. What are you going to play them?
Great question. You know what? It's probably like the most obvious answer, but you probably have to go like LC Stages Set or something like that. I think it's like that perfect mix of like taking elements from overseas hip hop, but it's very Australiana at the same time. It was released in a period that kind of bridges that 90s steez into the 2000s, you know, like I think something like that. I mean, I always have this idea that I like localized Australian music. I know there was a dialogue the more hip hop became bigger in Australia. I don't know if you remember people saying like, shouldn't localize the music. It shouldn't be too Aussie. It needs to be a world class standard. Like, but man, all our favorite records is like 139 and Lennox. I've been there. I was in there in February. 139 Lennox in the hood in Harlem. Like, it's a fucking street corner in Harlem. Like, those guys localized their music.
Yep.
All the stuff we listened to was like localized.
Is the mural there? Is that where?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah,
so
next
is
to
it
the
people? Is
bodega.
it people take like you taking photos, or is it still dudes slinging bags and stuff?
Nah, like it's still the ghetto down there. The further you go uptown past that, it gets more dangerous towards
Yeah.
the Bronx. But I was definitely the only white guy in a fucking 10-block radius. But I know there's like tourist heads go there. I was there in the middle of winter. It was snowing, so I don't know there's that many tourists there. But yeah, but you know that whole dialogue that people had for a while about localizing music, I kind of disagreed with it because I think it's cool if someone comes out and raps about all around the city, Alamein to Richmond, crisp up in your system, this is the commission. It's like, from saying kill to sunshine. You know, it's like really cool because we identify with that. We should be proud of like where you're from, you know what I mean? And then for a long time, people were like, nah, I want to make more international. We're trying to obfuscate really where they're from. That was like a dialogue for a few years there. And to add to that too, while I think of it, it's like, I used to record guys, like in terms of like localized music and Australian. I remember recording like my mate Klepto, and there were these other guys from a crew called LBK, like Liska and stuff. These guys coming fresh out of jail and recording songs around like 07, 08, 09. I was like recording some of these songs. My mate produced a few of these songs. I remember at the time people were being like, oh shit, like these guys are like these crazy ass boob heads and shit, and you shouldn't go near that stuff. Like more like industry type heads that were more focused on that careerist element of, yeah, they were kind of like, oh, don't go near that. Like it's like career suicide or something. But the funny thing is, in the years preceding that, you couldn't get on a train on the Belgrave line without hearing young kids pumping those songs out of phones or whatever. It had like hundreds of thousands of plays in MySpace, YouTube era. And then fast forward to 2025, street rap dominates the Australian hip-hop landscape. People want to hear
The realness.
the realness. People want to hear like Crims and Boobheads rap and stuff in 2025. It's interesting. It arguably has more depth than what people were sort of just rapping about rap back in the day or whatever. I think everything has its place. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it's interesting how things change over time. Like back then, it was kind of frowned upon to go near that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And then like now, years later, all the guys I know from back then, and then guys that are coming in now, they've got like 10x the plays that some of the just like standard Aussie hip hop rappers have. So it's interesting how attitudes and things shift, you know. So
Yeah, man. You look at that, and like with the eras, so say, for radio, say, for argument's sake, like the Triple J stuff, they're playing all of that sort of watered down Aussie skip hop, let's call it, for a while. And they're like, we don't want anything too ghetto or whatever.
Yeah.
But they jumped all in on the 1-4 stuff and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Which is arguably a lot more hectic than some of the more rugged rap that they weren't playing 10 years ago, you know?
yeah, 100%. And it's like, you know, things change and attitudes change, and I think it's just comes back to the same old point. You just got to do what you. At the time, that's what I thought was dope. Or these mates of mine, I reckon they've got bars. You know, they're good rappers, and some of these guys are like, mate, less fortunate. They've been locked up and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, give them an opportunity to like, even got some of these guys come on stage and drop verses and stuff like that. Multiple guys over the years are Klepto and Skits, and there's a lot of talent like tied up there, and it's funny. It took a long time for people to come around, but now it's like the new normal. So I think the game's always going to change. Like by the time I was into this whole thing, 04, 05, 06, in those years, I knew older heads that were like, the whole like back in 88, back in my days, different, you know what I mean? So my generation was light years away from their generation. This generation's kind of pretty much light years away from my generation.
Yeah.
It all changes, so I think you just got to do you. That's all it is. Just do you. Just do whatever you feel is the right move. Just
be authentic to yourself, because no one else can be you. And in this day and age with fucking fake shit everywhere, all the fake videos you see online, all the fake music, all the fake art, be yourself, man. That's it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, 100%, man. Even the fashions, everything's changed. Like, I still wear a lot of polo, and like my generation, there was guys walking around with like polo jackets and boat shoes and like sawn-offs down the sleeve, and box cutters and stuff. You know what I mean? It was like this was a fashion with the polo thing when and it's like we were dressing like preppy kids from Glenferrie or Camberwell. You know what I mean? But with Nikes on and all that kind of stuff, with Air Maxes and Asics, all that kind of stuff. It was like, even the way I dress now, it's kind of, you look at a lot of heads dress like, JD Sports campaigns now and that kind of stuff. It's like, dope, that's that generation, but just dress how you want to dress. It's like, I think like talking the way you want to talk and dressing how you want to dress and saying what you want to say kind of tells a story of you. So like these days I'm probably a little bit more like clean cut, you know what I mean? But I'm still rocking a lot of like polo and mixing this style and that style, because it comes from a particular era that might be gone now. People don't really dress like that now. So it's like heads might look at me and go, this guy looks pretty weird for a rapper, or like it's just like, whoa, curveball. But to my generation, that's how that was fresh.
It is super interesting, and I feel like it was very Melbourne and then sort of spread across to other states. But that early 2000s or late 90s where dudes were wearing polo, or any polo shirt you could get your hands on, and then it's kind of like the shorts, the Air Max 90s or the 95s or the 97s or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, a Nautica hat or whatever. Now it's become a meme, like kids sort of reference that kind of lad stuff, but it was just such a uniquely Australian look for such a long time.
Yeah. And full credit, like Sydney did kind of invent that whole thing, like the searcher look, you know what I mean? But Melbourne heads did it differently. So when I came up, all the guys I know that dress like that, they've never been to Sydney. They've never heard of Sydney. You know what I mean? Half these guys have barely been to fucking Richmond. You know what I mean? Like from the outer suburbs, But there's guys that used to roll around in like, tailwinds and big baggy chino pants or boat shoes and like Nike jackets, polo hats, all this kind of stuff. They didn't realize that Sydney had their own thing. So like full credit to Sydney, they kind of really did invent that searcher style, a little bit more sporty. They had, Sergio Tacchini
is definitely
and
a Sydney thing, man. Like
100%, yeah.
Here in the 90s and stuff, people were wearing 95s, 97s, Air Max 90s, even the B-dubs. The B-dubs I feel like is a pretty Melbourne kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like the hip-hop graph rider look was always, the blank hoodies, the Nike tracksuits and the BWs and stuff, but then it kind of moved into the polo, Lacoste, all that kind of stuff. And that was usually the like kind of graph crim type of heads, you know what I mean? But depending on what area you kind of came from, I know like heads from the Hursty line were a little bit more like, for years they were wearing like iron lac hoodies and like Nike tracksuit pants and like big Caribbean backpacks. And they kind of stayed
Caribbean backpacks was that?
Yeah, they kind of stayed on that steez, where in my area is like, country road duffel bags and like big baggy chinos and boat shoes and weapons. And it was each sort of line was a little bit different, or depending on like the vibe of the area and the people that came from there and what they kind of got into, it was like it was all very different. So I think sometimes the way that I maybe like talk or dress or something is kind of rooted in this time capsule of a certain era, but like that's just me, you know what I mean? So sometimes I do like seeing young kids build their own steez and their own slang and their own everything. It's like, yeah, dope, because we all collectively built the epochs along the way, and things are going to change anyway. So it's good to see young heads like build, and like more power to everyone that does everything now. And it's like, I just got to start paying more attention, to be honest, to be totally honest. Yeah, but like,
But because the internet now, man, people can be influenced from anywhere around the world, and you see this kind of global trend that happens now. Like a lot of these heads now, the younger kids, they're wearing this sort of like almost goth slash raver kind of, I don't even know what it's called. That style seems to be really popular with like one-off jumpers that they've made with their fucking, you know, they've stitched this and unstitched that and then put some bleach on it. Like that seems to be like a global trend, Jamie. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. I see so many of the young rappers now wearing the like 2013 like Chief Keef style. That's what they're talking about, but it's like it's in 2025. But the funny thing is they're wearing like the, you know, Polo used to do, Ralph Lauren used to do the country polos, like, you know, like Brazil or whatever. They had that whole thing, and then guys are wearing those like cropped with like LV belts and massive jeans, and it's like it's a huge like leaned out kind of like trap style. But I found this photo of myself the other week wearing the Australia polo racing team, the Australia one, 2011. I racked it in Brisbane, and it's just like, it's funny because like at the time a lot of heads were gunning for that collection. There was other riders and other scallywags that had all the tracksuits and the polos, and we all went and got it at that time. So that was a mini trend in our time. But then it turns out overseas in around 2013, I wasn't really paying attention, but Chief Keef was like kind of wearing it all. And then now there's people in 2025 referencing like Chief Keef 2013 wearing it, but it's like to try and triangulate where things come from. Yeah. But I think that's cool. It's like just let things happen, you know? Like,
was racking easy back then though?
Easier than now, you know what I mean? I mean, I would have loved to have been around in the 70s and 80s for all that, you know what I mean? It's like security's only gotten tighter over the years, but yeah, like we just went hard, you know what I mean? It's like people know me back then, and I was like, new outfits every couple of days, always had stuff, you know what I mean? We used to make money doing it. It was like, it definitely was like a golden era. Sometimes I look now out of curiosity, you know, just have a Captain Cook around, and it's like, okay, like it's tougher, you know what I mean? It's nothing's impossible, but you know, it's definitely, it's tougher, but...
You'd think at, like, David Jones when they see some, like, you know, 16-year-old kids figuring through the polo racks that they're going to keep their eye on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100% now. Surely they'd be dumb not to, you know, because it's been years of, like, heads going into these, you know, like, the places and stuff. And, like, surely the Jacks would know, too. I remember getting pinched with a mate of mine out the front of 101 Collins on Collins Street. And like allegedly some incident had gone down, and then me and my mate got pinched, and my mate had like bags and bags and bags of polo, like just by chance. It was like nothing connected to what happened on the day, but he had bags and bags and bags of polo, like probably tens of thousands even back then. And then,
on him in the city.
Yeah, because he was just going between two houses and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then like, we all end up at the old Melbourne East Jack shop, you know, like across from the church, like Flinders Lane, like the one that just used to be in there. And I remember like, even in the interview, the two Jacks are like, what's with all the Ralph Lauren? Like, is this some sort of like status symbol? And it's like, we both had white polo hats on, like top to bottom, everything like polo. So it stands out, you know, and that's like, that's 09, 08 or 09, you know what I mean? And then that's a long time ago. It's 15, 16 years ago now, and riders haven't stopped wearing polo, crims haven't stopped wearing polo. Like, I imagine, you know what I mean, like, you know, the Jacks would have to be, you know, sixpence short of a bob to not clock, like, what people are wearing, you know? I don't know, it's like, people are wearing, like, Nike tech tracksuits and stuff now. All the young kids, you see them on the news every night with, like, postcode wars and all this kind of stuff. They look a certain way.
That's the UK influence, though.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like, yeah, I reckon, like, people would have to be clocking all these kind of, like, outfits and stuff now, you know, for sure. Like, whereas back then, I think we all flew under the radar. That's kind of half of why the fashion that I still wear and what we were wearing back then, it was like, you had that hip-hop influence, you had the, like, Air Maxes on and bits and pieces, but you're also dressing almost a little bit like under the radar. You kind of wanted to look like, you know, some private school kid from Glenferrie or from...
But there was a mixing of that, man. Like, I knew the private school kids that were hanging around with the kids that weren't private school, you know? Like,
yeah, and I know from up my way, like, there was guys from Croydon that used to say to me, like, fuck rich kids, and, but you know, that kind of dialogue back then. But I hung around rich kids that suffered too, you know? Maybe they were financially okay, but they suffered a lot of neglect at the hands of their parents, or they didn't have the greatest home.
Go overseas, man.
Yeah, just leave them.
You know
yeah, that was common. So then they'd be knocking around with the kids from the poor neighborhoods, and maybe they had everything, but that was what they were used to. It's like, not to say they didn't suffer too, you know, but Yeah, definitely like it all used to kind of mix as well. And then, yeah, like kind of, we aspired to kind of look like that too. We used to think it was like cool, you look like life's good if you look like that, but it also kind of was like a double whammy because then you flew under the radar. You didn't look red hot, you know what I mean? I used to sometimes not really like getting around with guys that were like covered in paint, trackies and stuff like that, depending on what we were doing, like I don't really judge, but depending on what we were doing, I used to think, oh, fuck, just look red hot, like, so, but I know that was like, people used to have a lot of pride of looking like that, like,
Yeah. Man, we've just talked for 2 hours.
Fuck, there we go.
Goes
yeah.
quick, hey?
I told you I could talk a glass eye to sleep.
Man, you can definitely talk. Is there anything we need to cover?
Man, I think that's it. You know what I mean? I don't know if people are really that interested. They can just follow me on like Instagram or something, House of Lumes, whatever. Yeah, man, I don't know.
And your podcast is still there. The 3 episodes, I think you did.
Still there. Yeah. Look, I was going to go on with that podcast. I get a lot of messages still. Pretty much. I don't know, man. I just decided that I was going to get a lot of mates involved. Some of them really wanted to, but they didn't feel comfortable doing it. Some of them are still active. That kind of became a whole thing. They didn't, really, and then I just decided, you know what, like I'm young enough to still move on and make new memories. Sometimes like digging up the past and a lot of the stuff that I spoke about on those podcasts, the weight of it gets a little bit like like a little bit wearing to talk about like all the time, but I'm really glad I did it. It was really cathartic at the time. I know a lot of people resonated with that. So yeah, people can still go look it up. It's called Too Young to Die. It's on Spotify. There's 3 episodes. If you feel like someone would benefit from listening to it, then just share it, But it is what it is. It's just another time capsule in my history now. So
yeah, man. And you potentially might add some more chapters to it down the track, maybe?
See how we go. Maybe something along that line in a different format, or maybe getting together with some other people or something. I'm always thinking of these kinds of things, but for now, man, I'm just enjoying making rap music and...
Are you down to work with people if they hit you up, find beats, or people might have beats for you, or are you just happy doing your own thing?
Yeah, man, actually, because I stopped producing all my own music. I produced the whole like Tears in the Rain album in 2022. I did everything except Gecko did that one bass line I was talking about earlier. But these days I'm working with other producers, man. Producers from overseas, bits and pieces. Been doing a few songs with people. So yeah, I'm definitely open to like hearing beats from people and that kind of stuff for sure. I think it's like I'm just focusing back on the rapping again.
Mm-hmm. And any more little cameos on the stage or any gigs coming up?
Ooh, not at the moment. I did get hit up to do one the other week, but I'm actually in Brisbane when the show's on. So yeah, never say never. You know what I mean? I got a good rush doing that. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
this is going to come out on Sunday, so you would have just dropped your new track, so give that a shout out too, man.
Yeah. I got a song called Gate 47. It's out on the Thursday. This is coming out on the Sunday. That was out on the Thursday, so it's already out. It's called Gate 47. Just a 48-bar verse. It's produced by this guy, Sorrowbringer, from the UK. I've worked with him, from the Ukraine, sorry. I've worked with him quite a bit. Cool. On a couple other joints. So, yeah, I'm pumped about that. It's a really good song. Probably one of the best songs I've ever done. So, yeah, go give it a listen.
You connected with him through socials, or how'd you meet him?
Yeah, through socials, just like searching for beats and stuff. And these guys just got really unique sounds, you know what I mean? It's like, I'd love to find some more producers locally that I can work with. A lot of my mates that make incredible beats, they also rap as well. So, you're always going to get the B-reel from them because they're going to keep the dope shit for themselves. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I know what it's like. I'm a MC producer myself, so it's like you're always going to keep the A1 stuff for yourself. So
for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to link with like some actual just like dedicated producers that like my shit. So
man, it's been an awesome chat, and I look forward to maybe catching up in 6 or 12 months' time, see where you're at. Maybe you've got some more announcements then. We won't be in this studio, but we'll be somewhere else, man. But super interesting, and thanks for taking the time, dude.
Nah, word. I appreciate it, Maloney, and I'm interested to see what you do with this next phase of 3000.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. We don't know where we're going. Somewhere, man. Somewhere.
Yeah, mad. All right, appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
3000.